Welcome, everyone. It's been 3 days of anticipation, 72 hours, but we are back on our screens here for the PMCO UK Spring Split 2021 Finals. Of course, sponsored by Xiaomi, innovation for everyone. My name is Harland Wolf, joined by the beautiful Professor Tarzan, who is dressed up for the occasion, man, just like myself. We are looking swag.
I mean, that's our plan anyway. We're kind of going on a late Valentine's date, so that's part of the plan there. You know what? It's also worth, worth talking about how we should dress up and respect these teams who made it to the finals, right? And of course, on the screen, we have once again the point system that we are using, something that starts getting implemented through the later phases of last split. We now have 15 points going to the winners of the game, so making these placement points a little bit less rewarding, and some teams have therefore changed the way they played, maybe be a little bit more farming, kills heavy, so many different ways to play this game, and I think we need to see how these teams studied each other's plays and how they adapt in that 3 days break, right, Highland Wolf, to see how they can have that edge, because they are going to be playing against each other in every game in these coming 4 days. And you know what? It's going to be really, really intense, and I think that's a lot of possibilities.
Yeah, of course, it's a 15 points once again for the chicken dinner, and of course, a 1 kill point per kill, of course. Of course, though, on the other spectrum, these teams, if they fall in that 13 to 16 spot, going to gain absolutely nothing. And of course, talking about these teams and these points that they can earn, that is going to be all about how these teams are able to make it through to the top. You see the teams on your list here, starting, of course, with TSC Legends, BeMyLOOT, Royal Knights, Lakonostra MVP, Ki1 ESPORTS, Gaijin Seraphim, RENGERS team, RESQ. Take it through the rest, man.
And we also have HardShift, Tes Team, The Uncles UK, 777 ESports, Sons of Odin, Wild Esports, Vendetta UK, and Most Wanted.
Yeah, and of course, these 16 teams going to be facing up against 16 beautiful matches. Each day going to be the schedule, as you can see here, starting off with Erangel, over to Sanhok, then to Miramar, and back to finish us off every single night on the green hills of Erangel. And with those 4 maps, particularly here, we see, of course, the side of 2 Erangel maps a day. That is, if my quick maths is right here, Tarzan, going to be 8 games of Erangel alongside the rest of these 16 matches. So that is going to be the core map and the core place where he seems to be earning the points.
And I think it's a good adaptation by esports, like giving a lot of emphasis and appreciation of arguably the newest map with the update coming through Erangel as well. So a bit of a new element going into the classic map is just great. And you know what? We see a lot of teams telling us which is their favorite map. And we can definitely see some trends, Highland Wolf. Some teams really struggle more on particular maps. And so with this type of arrangement when it comes to maps, the teams who know and are confident on Erangel should come up strong. And but it being the oldest map, I think everyone should be confident. If not, this is time to catch up. You just need to know the way that you play, and then they can really make it work. We've been talking about styles, adaptations, tactics, scrims, mentality, everything, changing IGLs and stuff like that as well. We've seen all sorts. And you know what, after all, it's about how they can show us what they do. And then they are going back to study, because with regards to groups before, this combination of 16 teams is the first time in forever, right? Don't make me sing, but that is completely new to them.
We're going to break out into song.
And you know what? Sometime we are going to do that. But you know what? Like a song, I think is going to be full of dynamics, full of intonation, everything. You name it is going to be like, whoo, a good musical with some good fights and all.
Oh, I know you love your musical. You know your stuff there, Tarzan, on that. And I tell you what, it's going to be a dance of the 16 games, a tango for all these teams to try fight it out for that top three spots. Of course, now the tables have changed. The leaderboard has changed to only the top three teams going now through these 16 games are going to be qualifying for, drumroll, the PMPL EU West scene and competition. I think, of course, looking at the potential of teams, we have to start off, I think, with our favorite teams that we ourselves picked to go all the way. And starting off with yourself, Tarzan, TSC Legends, tell me a little bit why they should be one of our teams to be scared of.
Well, first of all, even based on what the player said, they gave a lot of credit to this team, right? In particular, their IGL Bujo with 3 splits or more of PMCO experience and being some regions MVP as well. But I mean, that's history. The important thing is how he implements that. And TSC Legend was a team that didn't perform too well in their day one, but they just played better and better. And one very important thing, of course, that we talk about is consistency. Okay, I think being consistently mediocre is not good enough. You know what they are consistent at, Highland Wolf? They are consistent in turning situations that seemed unfavorable for them into their own advantage. So they use that and they just turn the table and make it work. Now, how many times did we see them in maybe mid game or late game when they didn't have the circle, when the analysis of the map, so when we talked about landscape and stuff, are seemingly not in their favor, but they were able to find a way, right, to grab those points. And that is something that I absolutely love, more than just textbook plays being played well and clean, because that is something that we don't expect. A lot of teams just fall under this pressure, as well as, you know, not even taking the advantage that's given to them, for example, when they have a circle. So TSC Legends is consistent, playing better and better, as well as making what's not for them now for them. And that is such a strong showing, very good tendency, a lot of hype, a lot of respect.
Yeah, and of course, for my side, though, you can have your TSC Legends, but I have my RESQ here, Tarzan. And although they may have finished 12th in the group stage, I picked them for a good reason. And straight up here, going through the scrims that we had over the last 3 nights with all of these final teams, RESQ are one of the strongest looking teams going into the finals. Yes, they had 12th, but they are one of the most experienced rosters we've talked about. They've been through PMCO finals before. They understand the pressure as well. And Tick, speaking to me, said they were feeling really enthusiastic. They've been able to now work on their craft, shape themselves up and mold themselves into an even stronger team going into these 16 games. And they also said to me that it surprised them a little bit going through the group stage, the unpredictability of these teams, because they've not been able to scrim against them before. They've not been able to play against some of these teams before in competition. But now they've got used to these teams. Now they understand what they're up to. I'm ready for Tick and his squad to be able to take that first position.
Yeah, and these scrims in the past few days definitely helped them. And I mean, it's a great thing to see, right? The UK community being kind of close, you know, healthy competition, helping each other grow. And I think that's important when it comes to esports, not always just about rivalries and stuff. It's about what we can get like out of the practice that we provide each other with. And that is great to see. And RESQ for sure playing better towards the end of that tournament. So we always talk about momentum, right, Highland Wolf? And that is one thing that RESQ has. And you know what? There are just so many backstories to how some of these teams ended here. Of course, we need to do quite a lot of checks and stuff. And so some of these teams actually didn't expect themselves to be playing tonight, right? So I wonder what their mentalities are coming into tonight. Are they actually prepared? You know, I always say, you know what, like, I wish the world would just grant the opportunities to the most prepared, even though they might not expect it. I would say seize the opportunity, if not create it. That is how I think. And same for a lot of these teams. When they didn't expect for a spot, have they been preparing? That is very key, because whatever points you've got before, it doesn't matter anymore at this stage. It's all
Yeah, of
starting.
course.
Everyone
Yeah.
start from the same, like from zero. And if they could have prepared, like they have a spot, that would give them an edge. Honest opinion, that's
Yeah.
very, very important.
For sure, for sure. And 7 of these teams, because of complications with some of the teams, unfortunately being disqualified, make it 7 teams, unfortunately, out of the qualified group. Originally, we do have 7 more of those teams. Of course, starting with Tes Team, we've got the Uncles UK, 777 Esports, Sons of Odin, Wild Esport, Vendetta UK, and of course, Most Wanted recently today being added into the mix for the teams going into now this first game, which is going to appear very, very shortly and start us off into the PMCO Finals in the 16 matches. Just that is the only thing between that, the game number 1, all the way through these next 4 days. And by the end of those 4 days, we will have our 3 champion teams to represent, for the first time ever, the UK region in the PMPL EU West.
So exciting, and it starts right now. That game 1 is on its way, and this is going to be a bit of an interesting start. I think it goes through that Gatka field all the way to Lapovka, is my guess. We're playing this game again, Highland Wolf, and I just love it. And I was a bit off this time, right? Like with a little bit of a lack of practice, we will have that just to the south of Hospital all the way through Mill to Power. So if we look at the whole of Erangel map, it's considered pretty center, but considering we have a bit of water in between the main island and the military base island, I would say is a slightly southern plane path, and making spots like shooting range, Savonia a little bit hard to reach. So a team like HardShift that love going to that part, same for Most Wanted, right? A little bit hard to go. So they need to know the cars if they do want to stick with that drop spot. But just look at those teams. Nothing. Basically, all the teams other than TES team is heading towards the north part of that plane path. That is just fresh to see, but is also expected based on what they've done. Of course, we also got Royal Knights maybe going for that military base drop.
Yeah, of course, these teams very often in the group stage refuse to drop down in that southwest section of Gatka and below, instead opting, of course, to go over to that northwestern side. But what interests me here in terms of drop locations is still we see, and we talked about it going through the group stage, Lakonostra MVP dropping over in Lapovka alongside TSC Legends. We're going to see that debut once again, that fight happen now once again for these teams, but albeit on that eastern side, the zone has gone over to the west, which means TSC, Most Wanted, overlooking Lakonostra MVP, they'll have that advantage.
Little bit of congestion here between Uncles and RENGERS. Both teams were complemented quite a bit. When it comes to RENGERS, they had probably one of the biggest wins we had in the tournament so far. The one that they got on Miramar was absolutely beautiful. And for Uncles, right, the team that actually just went out of that 16th position initially and now got that chance, they show a lot of good playing in the textbook plays, right? Like sending someone to establish anchorage point, then leaving 1 or 2 to play spoiler. So small things like that I love to see. The Uncles actually have an ability to execute that pretty well.
And I'm actually interested, of course, you mentioned, of course, with me, the 7 teams that are now going to be on the spotlight, if you like. They are going to be the ones to show why they deserve a spot over those other teams that beat them through the group stage to now have that chance, this shot in the finals. And one of them, of course, being here, 777, south side of Novo. And in those crate sections, you do, of course, see an interesting position for the side of 777 because they are so low down compared to the zone. You see them now almost 2,000 meters away from the phase number one. They're going to have to really make a move here and be efficient, not only at playing, but also at their rotations going through that zone.
I think the hard bit is to decide where to go through the Eastern Bridge or the Western Bridge, right? If they've done the homework, they know in our region, in the United Kingdom, the Southern Islands are actually not quite favored. Of course, we have the side of Royal Knights here, as we see in military base, but that is no surprise to them. And the side of 777 Esports just need to use what they've studied and make it work. And they know for now they can rely on the early security with no one contesting, and that shouldn't be a huge problem, especially with the little interest going on the southwestern side of that map. As if every one of you remember how that phase one circle looks like, it actually goes over to the western side, so complementing maybe the first half of that plane path, and the congestion once again right around Milta to Milta Power up to that Lipovka area where Lakonostra MVP dropped. But the second, and I should say in that whole tournament, the most favored area should be South and North Georgia Ball. And we can see so many teams landing there, but also teams trying to pull away from there to go for some new drops. And Sons of Odin is one of those teams.
And I'll be super interested to see as well how Sons of Odin will really contest some of these teams moving around the zone, because of course one of these teams have dropped over to that central side, to that northern side of the Erangel map. And going into that cluster of teams, going into all of these fights, and particularly even looking at the scrims as well, Sons of Odin are a team here, starting off in Pachinki, of course, their signature drop spot, that have shown time and time again through their scrims from these previous 3 days that Erangel is the strongest map. And they, in one of their scrim days, managed to secure both Erangel matches a chicken dinner. So going into this first match, there is high expectations, but you do have to remember, Tarzan, that Sons of Odin aren't that aggressive team, unlike some others. So they're going to play it safe, and we don't expect them to be in the fire line for the moment.
Definitely. I think you made a very valid point there, saying Erangel being the strongest map. And that's where the majority of the points came from, of course. And they've been doing decently well in the past few days of scrims as well. But I think the important thing here is, Island Wolf, which drop location did they go for those wins, right? Because they are a team that like going to hospital in South Georgia Pool. Sometimes they would change it up to go Primosk, but I think it's the first time in the tournament, maybe not in scrims, right? First time in this tournament that they've gone for Pachinki. They know a team like Fools Esports are not here, and I think Fools got disqualified, and they just went and grabbed that, right? That location, very center, enough cars around, very good access to multiple strong areas, and I like that. You know, I like what Sons of Odin has done, and that is very different to what a team like Lakonostra MVP has done, right? They're so religious with that drop to towards Lipovka that I almost feel like a team that's so strong like TSC Legend that tend to drop very close to them, right? To that hillside on that western part, they should maybe take the initiative to just hunt down Lakonostra MVP.
Right, and we see also Lakonostra MVP racing their way towards this first zone as the blue area closes in around them and TSC Legends ahead of them. But of course, we do have to mention that TSC Legends, they drop over on that Mansion Prison Hills just to the west side of Lakonostra MVP. So because of that, they're going to have the first dibs towards that central belt, towards the edge of the first phase of zone, and have a stronger chance to really be able to adapt over Lakonostra MVP in a direct one-to-one race into zone.
You know what, both of these teams actually have so much confidence coming into the finals. They are basically saying, right, high level, if my memory serves me correctly, they just be like, you know what, fans, just like watch us. We enjoyed the little bit of the break that we had, and we would just go get them. And I like it because a lot of teams also told us they're a little bit nervous, right? Knowing that they didn't make it through that safely, and still trying new things is another source of that uncertainty. Meanwhile, TSC Legends made that huge rotation and now ending on this western side of Headshot Hills, just to these houses to the south of Ruins, and can be very, very strong overlooking Headshot Hills, and pretty center, got access to multiple strong positions as well, and just need to see how they play this.
Yeah, a team that said they would be on top form going into the 16 games tonight. And for sure, they do certainly look like they're on top form, but also a team that we've been able to speak to, Royal Knights here, excited, being confident, but aware, of course, at the severity about the level of play that is going to be for these PMCO UK finals. Only 3 spots, of course, going to go over. Only 3 teams can be successful, and they're very aware of that themselves, Royal Knights. They've made changes to some of their drop locations, their strategy, and of course, that is going for most teams, right? Many teams will have made those slight adjustments and be able to see if it improves, if it's going to pay off going into these matches. I am now concerned realistically for the side of most wanted, though. On your screen, you should see that phase 2 is closed and around the central belt. Look at the way they're coming in. They're going to be coming in over towards that northeastern side where the congestion is. Unless they make a hard rotation around that North Island, which they're not going to do because they are a little bit late, they're going to run into so many teams at the edge of that zone.
You know what? I think I would have preferred, right, a team like Most Wanted to just give up on the area too far, like Kameshki. We know that Yasnaya is not really contested. The teams that love going to Yasnaya is out of the tournament. So they could have just claimed that city to themselves, and if ever shifts towards that northeastern side again, they can continue to rotate towards the spots that they know so much about. They can go Kameshki after that, but to take an extra 2 minutes to get there and an extra minute or so just to come back to the edge is quite a lot of time burnt. And unless they've got the best luck in terms of loot, it might not be worth it. And I want to see that adaptation coming through from Most Wanted. But you know what? They also shown a lot of confidence coming in, and they kind of said, if I didn't misunderstand them, right, is that they are used to playing at the highest level. And it's different tactics coming into this lobby. And meanwhile, with a little bit of that early clash finally, BeMyLOOT now on top of Vendetta.
BeMyLOOT, Vendetta going to strike first in a tournament in the finals scene, and it will unfortunately be BeMyLOOT. Sultan going to be the first blood. Nemo will be sniped on the edge of that grenade explosion. Goes back into the smoke. Go has the ridge line there to protect him for now against the vision of Vendetta. But you see Vendetta. They are moving clever closer. They find Cladgy with the beautiful one from Bruty on the hilltop, overlooking that ridge line, high enough to snipe down all of them. There goes a confirmed knock. Nemo has been revived, but it's down just to 2 members through the smoke. Aiden is now spraying, but they have to hold off for now. Going to put a Molotov in. Nemo goes back down, despite the first A kit coming through. The first looking to happen as well, but the car, the only thing now protecting them. And BeMyLOOT in a bad spot, in a bad way. They will just fall down, and they will be the first team eliminated in the finals competition.
Well, I don't know how they ended up in that position, Highland Wolf. If they wanted to claim Watertown, right, or Sunken City, some people may call it that way, you need to be a little bit further, with a little bit of those hills, further away with a little bit more elevation to just scout those positions. That was just almost a season 1 or 2 play. That watchtower so high up, sometimes teams don't want to claim that, right? It's taking too much time. But Vendetta used the old school tactic, and it paid off like magic. There's nothing that gives as much elevation around that, I don't know, a 1,000 meters radius, really, that provide as much elevation. And that's what Vendetta used, and it worked out so well for them. Meanwhile, we'll have that shift going to that southwestern side. Is going to be a Gatka finish. We are expecting some people in those Gatka chopsticks, as well as those people, in the split compounds, but pretty hard to maneuver around. So I should be expecting some teams going for that wide rotation, right? Clockwise or anti-clockwise. First go towards the north or southern part, then enter back into the zone to avoid clashing straight through that eastern edge.
Oh man, I made some noodles for lunch today. I made some stir fry, and I tell you what, I'm excited for to see which of these teams is going to make stir fry of the other ones. TSC Legends looking now to crash and cook up some of the side of Gaijin Seraphim for their cooking pot, for their pockets of kills. Prada coming back though, joining back to his team with Lord, Adobo, and Costi now farther behind in that 3-1 split. TSC Legends, though, with their 2-1-1 split, Bujo gets a grenade to his face but won't fall down. The snipe from Adobo won't be able to finish him off for now. Prada, though, will go down to K2's grenade.
It's really hard to reposition for Prada, and I mean, it's just two top teams. A bit of a showdown here, right? The top tables, we saw TSC Legends, of course, the first seed coming into the finals, and then Seraphim showing up so strong in this second and third day, and they're here to still hold this. Of course, after losing that one, it's going to be a bit of a standoff across that compound, and K2 just peaked too far there, but shouldn't be too hard of a revive, and we should get a reset pretty soon.
A reset will be what comes through, I think, here, Tarzan. But crucially, unfortunately, there's going to be no reset for their 4-player Prada, who has been flushed out of the game. Also, we see Lakonostra MVP and Nori losing one member for their squad, of course, and them taking their own fight elsewhere. But it is, of course, now the position of Gaijin Seraphim. Although they did lose their frontline man, the rest of Gaijin Seraphim were close together, and they do have control of this compound. What makes it difficult, though, is, of course, escaping the compound. You see teams are already positioned in Gatka behind them. So if Gaijin are unable to successfully control the siege, which you see TSC Legends moving up now a building, they're going to be in a really rough time if it calls for an emergency exit.
I wonder what the plan is for these teams, right? Are they wanting to take out the other team right now, or they just respect it whilst trying to capitalize on the rotating teams? It seems like Bujo's just want to take this win right now with blood in their mouth. They're slowly maneuvering through the Gatka main compounds, pushing the Sanhok Seraphim more and more towards the western side until they don't have any choice other than escaping. And this type of standoff makes it really hard to think about where you park your car. So planning of that for that escape, right, like you mentioned, Highland, will become so hard, and we will have the next phase making it even harder. Of course, it kind of is on the edge there, but they need to make some rotation back to the southern side to some even more empty parts of the map.
On the edge of play for now as phase 3 shifts down back south to Gatka Fields and away to the chopsticks. But you see, it will be Lord sniping onto K2. K2 will go down and brings it now to equal footing, 3-on-3 action. Lord trying to make the second pop, but he won't be able to time it through the window. He's going to try look for a reposition here, but Lord keeps himself alive. The Molotov straight into Chiquita, and Chiquita's going to be burning down. Not how they want to be cooked here, is to trying to make some meal of Gaijin Seraphim. Lord, though, will be popped. He will be exploded into oblivion, and that will be him away from the rest of his team. TSC Legends going to take that first out, but now going to bring it to a 2 versus 3 advantage for them as they close in on the remaining 2 members. Adobo, Costi upstairs.
It's so hard to hold down these compounds, you know. You need to use your knowledge so well. These splits need to be well thought out. Whoever tries to peek to shoot at one of your teammates, you need to set someone there to basically make them pay the price for shooting your teammates. And that is how tactical splits come through. But it's also really hard because both of these teams essentially arrive at this camp at the same time. And now it's going to be a 2v3 situation. It's all about limiting those footsteps, and that's going to be one. Adobo is the name. I'm so sorry, showing us how to do that, and he can maybe make it work.
2 kills will only be what he gets, and for the entire squad of Gaijin Seraphim, they will fall down. Bujo will be kept alive, but they've lost 2 players on the edge here, TSC Legends, and they've still got some way to go. Meanwhile, though, Most Wanted up against their own skirmish against the side of Wild. Wild down towards the south end in their little shack themselves, and Most Wanted overlooking all of their members.
And that's one advantage, right? For a slightly slower rotation in phases 1 and 2, you can just slowly edge in. You are in a position that teams don't expect you to. And as long as they know how to scout and they have a good formation in terms of claiming those compounds, you can end up in a position like Most Wanted in one of the strongest buildings right now, and has actually a position advantage against so many of the other teams.
And although I think Most Wanted here have a strong position, right, they do have to be aware that they are still on the edge of that south end. We've seen the zone already shift towards the west side. We've seen it shift towards the south. It could shift towards the north, or it could shift towards the east and put Most Wanted in a really tricky position, particularly as they actually find some kills, though. They are pitting up some points in their pockets, as they will find a couple members. There's also RESQ will find all of Uncle's, make it 3 going down, and Saints trying to pull off the 2 versus 4, finds 2 kills, but won't be able, like the side of Gaijin, to find all 4. Unfortunately, though, unlike the side of Uncle's not being able to survive, fortunate enough for RESQ, they keep all their players alive, and they are now able as a 4-man squad to be able to adapt to this zone as it shifts towards them in their favour slightly. Only Royal Knights here in Vendetta UK strongly inside the zone.
And I think Most Wanted actually has some advantage here, because the compounds that they selected allowed them to kind of scout into this new circle and pick a decent spot, right? And if they establish that anchorage point early, they can maybe farm that. A similar situation goes over to HardShift on that western side. Spartan has an entry spot, and the rest of the teams are still on that high hill, and they can use that for as long as possible to shoot at all those enemies who are trying to rotate in through that western side. And if I were IGL of HardShift, that would be my call. And meanwhile, we can see Most Wanted also showing how to use the compound they're holding for as long as possible. Heavy punishment onto multiple players there. 777 Esports also doing that same thing, and oh my yai, it's just shooting ground. That is training ground action right there.
It is what it is, but unfortunately, the side of Wild as well. They're trying to rotate on the edge. They try to make the move. Only one will be successful for now. 777 in the shambles as well, and that rotation, not where they wanted to be, but it is how they will have to deal with that indeed. You see now 777, maybe UV just gets sniped out, but instead it'll be Gunner to fall to the side of RESQ as they will snipe up one. Kid now along the side of Most Wanted, trying to come up against RESQ, but they got the compound in play, they got a high ground in play, and they're busy looking to pick up some kills of their own, as they will find another one to Big Boss.
Oh my god, Kid was so good in that scout. He didn't even expose himself, he pulled back and then just sent it into the field and just basically knocked the entry, the scout of RESQ with that car. And that is Most Wanted showing us how they deserve this spot in this finals. But not so soon though, and Nori is here to strike.
And Nori got knocked down previously, but he's looking to make some knocks of his own. He's found one. He's blowing up the car now as well, looking to try and make it several more into the Most Wanted side in the smoke cloud over to that south end. So many teams closing on the south side, as Bourgeois will find a double onto Ki1 as well. Vendetta and HardShift losing one as RESQ pick off even more.
And that's also a little bit of clash, long-range fight between RESQ on that more southern side against HardShift on the west. We talked about the position of HardShift. They need to know how long to use that for and already pick a prime spot that they can use. But it seems like they will lose a little bit of priority, and they actually should just be in the circle. The scout is on that side, western side. Their Sponge has the spot, but on top of them, I think is the side of Vendetta, already in the circle, and we've got only another 33 seconds to go. A lot of these teams would need to know how quick they can crawl.
It's crunch time for all of them on the south, as HardShift and Vendetta will take their own fight up inside of the zone. You see RESQ, though, are going to help the side of HardShift out, as they will find a double knock here now onto Vendetta in the edge. RESQ looking to try and make it happen. They picked up 7 kills in their pockets so far, and they want to try prove why I picked them as that #1 team.
Oh, it's showing so strong right now. You know what? Most Wanted is also showing a lot of strengths in how they play textbook well, and that is the basics that we want to see these teams do. As we speak, the blue zone is closing in. A lot of these teams still need to start setting up those smoke walls. They need to bring the cars in. They need to know when to strike, trigger discipline, reflex, all the formations we have to see right now, as we see Lakonostra MVP having some issue on that side, but RESQ still holding strong on the south part.
RESQ they're holding strong, but look at Kid, he's crawling his way to his victims of RESQ. Trying to make that 1 versus 4 upset, might be able to do enough damage to stop RESQ rotating in, as RESQ pick up another. Now on to HardShift, rotating in, picking up kill after kill, but blood will be returned by the hands of now Vendetta. They've had enough of it. They are inside the zone and they want to steal that chicken dinner away. They want that W, but most wanted also fall down. Lakonostra MVP, who are edging also their way into zone quicker, will take down 2. Tick runs in. Kid still keeping it quiet because he knows that on his rest of his team that are behind him, and he's the furthest potentially get into zone. RESQ even losing more.
Oh my god, and Kit just saw all of that happen. The trigger discipline is crazy, but at what cost? He will be found by Danny from Lakonostra MVP. Kit just missed out on a little bit of opportunity there, but we know how patience can be rewarded in this game, and that is also RESQ slowly losing their life, and they're out at 7th place.
Heartbreak, unfortunately. Tick stood up to try first that kill. Bit too aggressive, got punished for it alongside a teammate. Most wanted also stand up for too long. A second is all it takes, gets popped down into the ground. Vendetta will join them alongside with Broughty and now Hanzo down as well. Though Hanzo will be revived back into the game, bringing him back up to 2 members as that phase now 7 circle will close in on all of these teams, shifting with only really the side of HardShift in favor, the side of TES Team. Lakonostra MVP and Nori going to really struggle to find a crucial way inside.
Oh my god, I mean, HardShift just has a little bit of that slope there, and it's been protecting them through the last 2 phases, and they can also peek and shoot as well. The other contestant is from the side of Vendetta, but they will just take out 1 more. Maybe HardShift can get the opening win, but meanwhile, the full team of Royal Knights are also slowly crawling in. So it's down to HardShift to control all of that, and I mean, for the rest of the lobby, really struggling right now, because for this type of circle, the second you stand up, you will be punished for that. And meanwhile, that blue zone's ready closing, and that's Vendetta out at 5th. And then we will have this closing in. Is going to be a matter of using utilities, using comms, reflex, just everything in your pocket. This is game 1, and this is the time to just take it away already.
This is Snake Central, but Starboy is being called out as Spongy will knock him down. And now the side of Royal Knights down to just 3 members. And Nori as well, and the edge gets caught, but not as much as Spongy is going to be blown into smithereens. And now there's going to be no real help for him unless Lotus comes to the revive, but the grenades are coming through. They're raining down. It's like meteors from the skies as Hardman and Spartan try to smoke their way ahead.
It's so hard. When it comes to using smokes in these situations, if you throw one as distraction smoke, it can work out like in so much in your favor, right? You can bait so many utilities into the smokes when you pretend to be there, but you can also do what they are doing, trying to smoke themselves, but that can limit their own sight lines. But Spartan has a good position here to stop the rotations coming from TS Team as well, but will be found by the Royal Knights first.
Dyer now the only one alive. Realistically, as Deke is going to be chewed by that zone. Phase 7 will take no prisoners. Neither will Royal Knights, as they will take down that kill as well, just for good measure. Royal Knights, so they best be careful by taking that kill. They don't reveal their position much. Cable going over to the front. They got to take that revive with 2-1 split. HardShift still in control in the driver's seat with all 4 players up and healthy, separated out in that crucial 1-1-1-1 split, covering so much of this zone and so much of this entire side of safety for Royal Knights to progress. You see that line as well ahead of them. Royal Knights, they're not going to have such a direct line of sight over the side of HardShift because of the way that grass parts ways onto the other side the HardShift are at. But now, going to try find a reposition. Lotus stepping back up. Will he find one? No, he won't. He'll be picked apart. And now HardShift are on the back foot. They need to take the revive.
It's not just a revive, they didn't have a spot in the circle, but the side of Dire is trying to make it work and make it hell for Royal Knights with this distraction coming through. Another knocks go through on to the Royal Knights. HardShift can maybe take this.
Spartan's got line of sight on Dio, who's found him with the rest of his team, and that will be the chicken dinner stolen away with the help of DR. Crucial on that spoiler on Royal Knights, and as you say, HardShift take the first game, 4 kills, juicy in their pockets.
And that is how the patient got rewarded, right? Just playing that quiet Western side. I mean, sometimes when the zone's given to you like that, you just have to take it. But let's not forget about how important those kill points are. TS Team, a team that we didn't mention in our pre-game, just because we haven't seen a particular trend or a particular strength coming through, right? But with those 7 kills in the second place, noting that difference in the first and second place when it comes to placement point, they are actually at the same amount of points as the winners of this game. So they both have that 19-point game, and very, very strong start for them.
Yeah, I think it is, of course, crucial for these teams to get the momentum up, get their spirits high. And even Royal Knights, the team that placed through in third in the group stage, finishing in third here, going to be starting off strong once again over some of the other teams here, like, of course, TSC Legends, like, of course, RESQ that we talked about. But in terms of kills, so important. RESQ picking up the most kill points alongside Lakonostra MVP in that game. And as a result, even though they may not have finished even RESQ on a high standing, those kill points crucial to bringing him up in that leaderboard.
Yeah, 100%. And just look at how every point matter there. 3 of those teams getting 0 points. And the bottom 9, so bottom half, I should say, yeah, bottom 8, of those teams getting 3 points or under. That is a crazy amount of difference. And we can see how it gets a little bit equaled out so far, right, in the top 4. And we would just get more, a clearer picture as tonight's go through. And you know what, just need to see how they play that. I mean, TSC Legends, a team that only got 1 kill point, still at a decent position because they've got 8 kills.
Yeah, and I think in terms of getting those kills, we see that will be what will cause these teams to be able to boost their way up on that leaderboard towards the top. And kills going to be the name of the game for these teams going forward through the rest of these games. But props to, of course, HardShift for taking that chicken dinner and taking the W. And really, although they had, I think, the zone in their favor going towards those last phases, unfortunately, of course, for some of those teams down south who just didn't have it in their luck for game number 1, there's still much more opportunity to go.
I think we have to slowly start to classify these teams based on playstyle, of course, and of course our own picks. Island Wolf, TSC Legends and RESQ, right, didn't get a lot of placement points, but already showing how they can still farm kills for those points.
Yeah,
and some other top teams on that high up on that leaderboards from group stage, for example, Seraphim, Gaijin Seraphim, and there's a few more, and they have been playing a bit slower still. So I think we need to see more of the adaptations coming through to be less reliant on the zone for giving them an edge, and they need to start finding those points by themselves. And that is one adaptation that we want to see, and styles to be more distinct.
Yeah, and of course it is still early days for these teams. Slight breaks in the leaderboard, but nothing too major just yet. Hold on though, because we are about to dive into game 2 just after the break. So don't go anywhere. Keep your drinks handy, keep your snacks ready, because it's going to be a jungle whopper. Welcome back, everyone, to now game number 2, match 2 of 16 of the PMCO UK Finals Spring Split 2021. Of course, joined me and, of course, the Professor Tarzan Caster, the one and only, here with me on the desk. Man, it was a juicy first game that we saw over the side of Gatka Fields. We saw HardShift take down that chicken dinner, and now we have even more juicy, even more action because it's going to be on Sanhok.
You know what, Island Wolf? I just had this thought, right? If we consider this a continuation, which officially it is, from group stage, HardShift had a back-to-back Erangel win. So they had the win in our last map, right? The last map of group stage, and they are here again to claim another one. And you don't really get back-to-back Erangel wins unless it's in this situation, right? Or game 4 of today, then game 1 tomorrow. So off for a strong start, and a lot of these teams need to keep it up because Sanhok is a very, very different map, and we want to see those adaptations. We want to look at a team like RESQ, you mentioned, Highland Wolf, a team that seemed to struggle a little bit on this map, both in scrims and in the tournaments, in this tournament, right, in group stages. So we need to find out how they play that. And with the playing path going slightly to the side, doesn't really matter because it's still Sanhok. It's 4 kilometers times 4 kilometers, very, very small map. So people can go to wherever they want, go to docks if you want, Kampong, you name it. So we just need to see how these teams drop, how they've studied each other's rotations, and how they make that their advantage.
And of course, just like the side of Sanhok being open is all open on the board, so is, of course, that leaderboard. Although HardShift took that win in what you can say was a snake-style finish, going on to now the snake map itself, teams can very easily come back or actually be pushed down slightly further on that leaderboard and start to create gaps through this map going further into the rest of the night. Of course, Uncle's going to be dropping over in their signature spot right in the center of the map inside boot camp, and this is a juicy zone here because we saw this zone actually yesterday in scrims, and we got to see how teams would likely play. This time, though, slightly different in terms of at least some teams like Royal Knights not going to be dropping on the east side, all the way in that west, but of course, RESQ, Uncles, inside boot camp. RESQ yesterday in scrims got demolished by Uncles UK inside a lobster building. Let's see if it's something different.
And of course, Uncles had a very different approach as to how to play bootcamp. They are playing on the outskirts, using those 3 stacks instead of using Lobster Building. But that is RESQ trying to push out the solo players, and that was so sweet. They saw those parachutes. They are joining forces to eliminate one by one, and that is the problem when you split up. And that is RESQ coming in stronger than how they played this scrim with that opening kill over to their side.
And I love that they're actually now taking punishment onto the side of Uncles UK from what they did themselves in terms of mistakes in yesterday's scrim, separated apart, allowed Uncles just to come as that full squad on top of them. This time, it's a complete opposite way round. Uncles, that 3-1 split, aren't going to be in a great position either to realistically contest a full squad now of RESQ coming at them all together. What they do have, though, is some distance to work with to start getting looted up, and you can see they're going to be able to quickly navigate their way through that south end of boot camp. And I think most likely, as you see now even Argo doing, escape round to a new place in zone, maybe towards the end of that edge of zone phase number 1, and be able to maybe gatekeep RESQ slightly later on.
You know what, Highland Wolf? RESQ sent all their players to that northern side, right? On that push onto the solos, they sent all of that. I tell you what, I don't like it. I think I would prefer for them to keep one guy to not move in the lobster building as a bit of a scout, to track the audio cues coming through from the rest of the Uncles team, trying to rotate around so they can get more info with that elevation, with that center position to track their movements. So maybe the rest of the team from RESQ can maybe wrap around and get a side angle to kill them. With all of them coming through to that northern side, they just lose that position advantage. You just need one guy to know how to limit, footsteps, not move around, know how to scout, and that might have been an opportunity for them to grab even more.
Yeah, of course, a team there, Vendetta and Samin, 6th position, looking strong, going to loot their way up. But, of course, making our way back over to this boot camp section, straight in the center, Gaijin taking control over that hilltop and overlooking vision. They will know exactly kind of what has been happening around these rotations. And as you see, they're making those edge of border rotations from the sight lines that Uncles will be able to have on top of the members of Gaijin, and they're making careful rotations through from the south end up into that phase 1 zone. Also doing the same along the coastline, though, opposite end is wild. And I think this is interesting to see that many teams here early on adapting to making a fast rotation into the zone, despite the fact, of course, as we mentioned, Sanhok being such a small map.
And Wild went for that drop along the coastline on that northwestern island and gave them that early access, right? But we can see Uncles here having more issues, and Gaijin Seraphim went for those drops that gave them early access to the bootcamp hill, and they also know, maybe from scrims, that there are at least 1 or 2 teams in bootcamp. So they gave away, all right, you know what, scrap that hill, bootcamp hill on the northern side, and they just try to go around to choke their rotation spots, and this is just so sweet. That's 2 more kills coming down, and that is Arga, the last one standing for Uncles in split seconds.
Arga finds that knock before the smoke clears completely. Arga finds a second and Kosti. And now the tables turn just a little bit here, Tarzan, because it's a 2 versus 1, not a 1 versus 4 situation. Arga has the cover inside the buildings, but Prada's going to cook up the grenade, look to try find the angle on top of it through the window. But so will Arga first, and Prada falls down. Not quite quick in the draw there, Prada. And now losing members left and right for Gaijin. Only 1 vote for Arga alive. Can he make the 1 versus 4 happen? Adobo, the captain on the rock here, overlooking Arga's position. Maybe looking to try finish this flush off, keep his teammates alive, but their health bars are slowly ticking away. The grenade will be cooked up, but Arga will dodge it for now. Arga back, repositioning.
Oh my god, Arga superhuman vision there as well, shooting through the smokes, and that is also Seraphim having a little bit of trouble using the covers, right? They open fire in a position that didn't allow them some escape strategy to crawl back up the hill. And that is why Adobo would just give that player up. But meanwhile, Kosti got a way to flank around from the side, and that won't be too bad after all for Seraphim. But I mean, there's no teams out of this lobby yet, so losing too early, pretty hard. But I mean, Uncles also had some trouble, and now just down to that 1 player being Arga.
They are lucky, of course, to keep 2 alive. Arga almost finding that 1 versus 4, but it is going to be difficult for both of these teams in general to be making it through into the safety later on in this game, because they won't have the players, they won't have the broad coverage that these squads will have moving in terms of vision and in terms of firepower and strength later in the stages there, but they can still play it cautiously, albeit. I think in terms of a team, though, that I really want to start looking at is even the side of Lakonostra MVP, one of the top teams, right, moving into now the finals, but not having a super consistent time over those final days, unlike the absolutely pop-off day number 1 where we got 2 chicken dinners. And they did, of course, tell me, though, that they were taking it easy. They were playing it a little bit chill. Their first day of playing was all serious. They got the points for like, okay, we've qualified. But now they say they're ready to dominate the region and put down all 15 other teams.
And the RESQ here as well, they of course showed us what they can do. A lot of frags the last game, and taking some bootcamp win right now. And I mean, but I was very curious as to what was going through their heads, right? They had a good chance to rotate around that fight between the Uncles and Seraphim, but they decide to just, take a rotation instead. And that, to me, that are unlike how RESQ are used to playing, so maybe that little bit of hesitation on this particular map is showing through. And you know what, who is not hesitating? Ki1 with the rotation. That is just so bold, and that is, you know what, I think highly punishable, especially with Wild Esports here already claiming this coastal line in the past. Arguably 3 or 4 minutes of the game, so they will have a lot of access to stop these type of rotation coming through, and Ki1 is yet to find a spot. You know what? I know this sentence has been going on for quite a bit. I just need to quickly make one point as well, Highland Wolf, that maybe you missed. Right? HardShift did not go to Cow. They went for the Northwestern
HardShift,
Island.
yeah.
And then
They
that is an
did go.
adaptation. Woo.
Yeah. Northwest Island, and that will be HardShift. And this comes from, though, their scrims. They adapted here, going often dropping in a heart in actually, and making that rotation along the north border, along that north coastline, through the river towards the ocean in its opening, alongside obviously 777 dropping, especially through their scrims, comfortably in that north side. And it is going to be these northern teams that are going to be the ones that are comfortable going forward into now this phase 2. And I am interested to see where particularly the congestion will be, because unlike in yesterday's scrims where it ended around the Paradise Resort and it was fairly contested, it's going to be a different type of contention. Still keep in mind, particularly even, that there is that other western side in play, should I say. And I think that there's still that opportunity for the bridge to be detrimental to some of these teams.
And I definitely remember having a game, right, in PMCO UK group stage before, when we had this type of circle. On the northern side, the majority on that main island, but it eventually shifted towards the northwestern side with the heart-in finish, and that is still highly possible. So that is your point, maybe, Highland Wolf. That may give us some answer as to how these teams want to position themselves. Maybe closer to that Hearten Bridge would be the answer. We've got those ridges compounds that we could see. We know there's like that big dip burrow hole on the northern side of the main island as well, up for grabs. So need to see more of that priority coming through and see how teams basically claim that area. I mean, 777 esports as well, using a little bit of a buggy move can maybe overtake some of the other teams, but we always know the risk of giving away a lot of that cast sound. And now Ki1 in area to maybe punish that cross from 777 esports.
And I think in terms of now 777 being able to take those kills, including the fact that Wild were overlooking them as well, Ki1 have been a little bit slow on their rotations, considering that, of course, multiple members were actually swimming, not taking that boat rotation. And this is what we talked about by slowly falling behind in the minutes of play from that early game through to the transitions to the mid stages and then towards the late game. They need to be aware of their position, albeit if they can move all of the remaining members into that compound, keep it a hold for themselves, that will be a strong position moving later into that game and having that solid, really position inside the zone. On the other hand, though, still to make it inside the zone, TSC Legends going up against Most Wanted. On the other ridgeline, they are trying to find a peek onto ads, but he snakes down, will dodge the bullets for now, and TSC, it's going to be an interesting time for them and how they choose to cross this road.
I think it's all about trigger discipline, right? That is just too hard of a bit. That open fire was just too hard to get capitalized, man. Like, so hard to get a knock, even harder to get the confirm. And that's TSC just revealing the position right now. They need to maybe go wide because they didn't have the high ground as well. And we're going to have this shift in a matter of seconds still. Inconclusive, Highland Wolf. It can still be a Northwestern Island finish, and HardShift is just chilling right now. But I mean, Ki1 with that position that we saw earlier, that rich compound that we mentioned, right? High ground 360 information. That is a very strong spot in this phase.
And what interests me as well is how teams will maybe adapt. You see the hill just above 777, perhaps even looking to control that flat hilltop and be able to then scout vision from teams rotating in through the center. But it is going to be a short trek for teams still on that eastern side. The likes of course, RENGERS, even, of course, now of BeMyLOOT rotating their way from Paradise Resort into a compound inside the zone. But keep in mind something here, Tarzan. No teams have gone down. All 16 are alive. And now that we're on phase 3, a small map like Sanhok, there's not going to be enough compounds to hold all of them.
And I do believe, or I want to believe, that's due to them studying each other's play, right? These scrims are for something, at least, so they know each other's rotation spots, not just drop spots, how they rotate, that cause these early game to be slightly slower. And we basically saw all of those 5 kills on the screen, like 3 lost from the uncles and 2 by Gaijin Seraphim. And these teams are showing maybe how or what it means to study the game. Right, but I mean, getting more and more congested, like you said, Highland Wolf, we don't have a lot of ground to provide cover for all these players, especially for that area, I think, between Paradise Resort and that rich compound now held by Ki1 ESPORTS. Those are very, very tricky to play. A lot of maybe downslopes, not a lot of rocks, and that is going to be a very, very tough one. A lot of teams still need to get a place in, and I think this style of circles is how we see their styles, right? How much they prioritize that rotation to go more center, or they just farm on edge. And RESQ is trying to find some angles onto RENGERS right now.
RESQ took this compound at the early game stage, just sat down, read a book, and now waited for the 15-minute mark. They finished the first chapter, they put their bookmark in, and they put the bullets down into the side of RENGERS. Now also Vendetta, and of course TS Team as well, rotating in behind them on top. And RENGERS, alongside the rest of these teams, could easily start to really cover onto the side of RESQ and put them in a tricky position. Of course, Gaijin Seraphim, they found multiple members themselves. Alongside Hyper, we'll find one of Vendetta. Vendetta losing even more as TES Team make that assault onto him inside the compounds. That blue zone phase 3, eating them up. And Gaijin of over 2 members, they have the opportunity now to wipe down the entire side of TES.
And then we are going to have a shift once again. And look at
goodness.
that circle, man. Dude, how do we even play around it? You know what? I have an idea. For all those teams, basically 15 teams, on that eastern side of the map, it's time for them to go wide. It's time for them to go first to the northern side and maybe come back in under the bridge. Some sort of plays like that. We will see people on that small island as well. And then HardShift will be able to get free entrance into that western part of the map. But you know what? Lakonostra MVP was ready. And they made that cross first as well, sharing that western side alongside HardShift.
HardShift are just making money right now, potentially in their pockets. They've got a real investment for an opportunity for kills, as all of these teams going to be rushing over that bridge side. I talked about that bridge being important, and I don't think there's been a more important time for that bridge to be played inside the UK scene in its competition so far. What we do see, though, is the rest of these panic of teams rotating in. Gaijin picking, though, apart, holding down strong for a couple minutes, holding TES to account, and they will also now be down to just minimal players. But still, 0 teams out of the game. Who's going to fall first?
Oh, it's really hard to tell, Highland Wolf. It comes down to 2 main tactics, in my opinion. 1, resource allocation that leads to healing, and 2, run and gun. And then we can also see Vendetta trying to maybe make something work, but RESQ stays strong. The full team is up here with 5 frags, and they are still trying to play that gatekeeping duty. And there's Vendetta. I think Aiden being the last one standing, not going to be an easy. Still got 16 teams though.
It's ridiculous how long these teams have survived. We're approaching the 18-minute mark, and 0 teams have dropped out of Sanhok so far. Sanhok, of all the maps, is the most surprising point there, but RESQ have picked up 5 kills, a massive amount compared to some of the rest of these teams. There's also Gaijin wipe out some of the remaining members of TSC Legends as well. Sons of Odin, BeMyLOOT losing one as well as they approach now the side of BeMyLOOT alongside Ki1. Danoka's on the other side of the village, overlooking the road. Sons of Odin are being eaten up by the zone. They're forced to cross now. It's BeMyLOOT, all 4 squads. Shoxy making the first attempt to run in. Albert on the backside. Shoxy gets deleted, and Sanya's out of the game. Now only Albert. Sons of Odin could be the first to fall.
Oh no, missing the nade as well, and look at that blue damage. That will be Sons of Odin out first, but soon after is another team, and BeMyLOOT, although with the numbers advantage, maybe taking a little bit too long to play gatekeeping. Assaulter made it work though. With that ridgeline, he can approach and contest this, but Hackshot is there to serve.
It will be BeMyLOOT. Hackshot serving up 4 clean kills for their squad. 2 so far going away, but Most Wanted wants some action with Addison behind. You see, Kind Boy's not done just yet. Hackshot has to retreat back. 2 kills is all they're going to get. Still, that kill feed has not stopped, Tarzan, for the last 2 minutes. And these teams continuing still to die. There is too many players falling now, all at the same time, all vying for a position inside the zone. BeMyLOOT, finally they go down. It's 777 on the outside, Hackshot on his own, inside that village on top of the mountain.
And what do I say about this space between Paradise Resort and this rich compound? It's so hard to cross, and that you want to be proactive, right? Leave your options open, make maybe some earlier rotations so that you don't need to be pushed by the zone like this. I mean, 777 Esports with this ridge line is just so sweet. With access to that bridge as well, they can slowly come in and maybe just clear that northern edge as well. And Ki1 is at the mercy of the zone still in this position. Maybe can look down towards that water and small island there. A lot of fishies maybe in play, and we will have this crazy circle. Woo! Ki1 got the spot, but they will have so many fishies dying and eaten up by the blue, and look at RESQ. Somehow made it through as a full team.
The zones were like, okay, we were bad in group stage, but now we've got to the finals. We're just going to completely turn it to the next level. You thought you saw difficult zones? Let me show you 16 teams in a bridge and 2 compounds. The only land in play at phase number 5. Now phase 6 is even worse, and these teams are living their true nightmares here on Sanhok. You see only a few members. Ki1, they held this compound for a long time. 7 teams remaining. Hackshot trying to take it away and keep it in control from 777. Now entering as that full squad. RESQ on the downside as well. Royal Knights will find one onto HardShift as they fall down to 1 player. Spartan now out of the game on top.
Very tricky to play, man. Look at all those players. The center of the zone is under that cliff in the water. All those players from Lakonostra need to wish that they've boosted fully before jumping in. But meanwhile, Ki1's still trying to hold this one, and 777 need to make some flanks maybe on the other side. Blue slowly coming in, but all these teams should be fighting this out, and RESQ is actually splitting their bets. Tick is slowly getting ticked away and loses his health, and that is Coyote almost going down as well. Just makes it to the cliffside. That is a good play by RESQ, and I like it.
Look at Royal Knight's position on Faster. Already has land in play for himself and will be able to now snipe down all of those teams if they are forced to move onto the edge of those rocks coming up onto the coastal line. Albeit the coastal line won't be so much in play. Phase 7 now shrinking still, keeping the water in play, still keeping these teams inside of the water in play as well. Lakonostra MVP is shaking hands with RESQ right now. Both of them in a dire position, but on top, the strength really goes, I think, towards 777 right now. If they can eliminate Ki1 from this shack, they will have one of the strongest positions now to take the chicken dinner.
And that is the reliance, right, on the security coming from the hardcovers. It's so predictable where you're going to peek or exit, and that's his soccer knowing that problem and getting not by 777, but Coyote, they're making work done for RESQ as well. So Ki1 actually lost this compound control.
RESQ are continuing to grab these kills slowly. An aggressive team is paying out for one, but Coyote slips too far down. So does Ki1 Hackshot. He will slip down with alongside his entire team out of the game in 6th position. Now you see RESQ Hype is going to fall down to Alicio, who's found a pick. 777, no, find it in return to Alicio. And now UV, overlooking all the side of Lakonostra MVP, just says, have one of these, and we'll take the Molotov into the water. Have you ever seen that? Flames coming out of the water itself. But so do grenades come down from the air as well. Danny and Senso survive for now.
What am I watching right now? And look at the beautiful name! My god! That is 777 knowing the area of control. UV can't get too complacent. We'll find more fishies and we'll eat that one up as well. Royal Knights actually made it to the top once again. Same for HardShifts. These placement points in this situation actually matters a lot.
777 are just farming up kills. It's like you're in a fairground, right? And you have those whack-a-moles and you see one mole and you just smack it into the ground. That's what they're doing right now with the entire lobby in the final scene. They're just dropping down and smashing them with their bullets into their face. They've out up to 8 kills. Royal Knights Fast is the only one alive. He's just going to slowly fall down to that zone. And it will be 777 picking up all of those kills and that chicken dinner with the strongest position at the end there. 8 kills going their way.
But look at RESQ. Oh my god. How many kills again? Come again, 12 kills.
12.
So that is a 22-point game. It's more points than any team's gotten the last game, right? And that is just mad. And of course, we've also got a 23-point game coming from 777 Esports, a team that we were waiting for, okay, to perform. And they initially didn't have a spot as well, and this is them showing how good they can be. And I mean, Faster, or was it Cable there from Royal Knights, made it single-handedly, right, with that one spot, brought their team 12 placement points, and with 15 points from that, they made it pretty high up, and we can see RESQ. Look at that placement point to kill point ratio, man. It's just crazy. 22 kills, 11 kills per game so far. And you know what? Maybe you're right, Island Wolf. There's
maybe my big brain,
to show that. And I mean, like, I was taking that break, but you could see progressions of teams through those scrims and RESQ. Oh my yay, we talked about how this is probably the weakest map as well. And with this now nailed, going into Miramar, where we show how they played the strongest out of the 3 maps, it's getting quite scary for the other teams.
It is getting quite scary. I think it's getting quite scary for you, man. I mean, I'm not going to say anything, but TSC Legends in 9th position. But yikes, Tarzan. If you want to change, you can always change. Maybe in the past, if you can rewind some time. But I think you're going to stick with it. And I'm going to stick with my RESQ here in number 1. Looking solid after these first 2 games. But also looking solid, though. Keep in mind, this Lakonostra MVP. Very consistent ratio between placement points and kill points. And the second most aggressive team coming out here. 777, of course, being the third. But 8 of those 10 kills, of course, and 15 of those 16 placement points just coming from that last game alone.
Yes, and we can see some tendencies right now, right? HardShift and Royal Knights both got a lot of placement points, but look at that kill point lacking there. So from experience as well, right? From group stage, HardShift is a team that can capitalize when the zone goes to them. But sometimes when they go against them, they actually need to find more ways to defy like that factor, that disadvantage, and they need to find more ways around it. I mean, with those placement points, if they can just bump up a few more kills using the position, maybe scout a bit more aggressively when they seem to have a comfortable spot, might be the way to go for them to get a few more kills. I mean, just if you think about that, HardShift almost had double the placement point as RESQ, but RESQ almost had 4 times the kill points as HardShift. And that just tells us quite a lot there.
I think it does tell quite a lot. And it speaks a story right of going into now the third match. Half of the games so far are already done. And if you think about it, in 8th, technically here, using our maths, I'm using my brain here. Really hard, of course, to use my brain, but I try my best, Tarzan. I try my best. And we are now in 8th of the way through all of these games. We see now going on, as we mentioned, RESQ in the driver's seat. In the driver's seat and scrims, their strongest map going to be up on Miramar, but that's going to be a short break away. Don't go anywhere, guys, because it's going to be exciting. The leaderboard is just heating up. Welcome, guys. We're now 50% of the way through day number one's games. We're heading over to Miramar for the PMCO UK Finals. Spring Split 2021. Of course, sponsored by Xiaomi Innovation for Everyone. Thank you. And gracias, as they would say in Espanol. But, of course, I am your caster here, the host of the day, Scarlet Wolf, alongside the beautiful and wonderful and the one and only Tarzan. How are you doing once again, man? 2 games down. We've got 2 more to go, and the leaderboards are starting to form.
Yeah, for sure. And that is going to be very, very spicy, I think. The one perspective that we need to give to all of you viewers is that teams are not just fighting to win. They want to show themselves and represent the region at PMPL Europe West. So only 3 teams get to do that. So we mentioned how HardShift and another team kind of just slipped my mind right now. You know what? I'm just going to have a look at those leaderboards. They are hanging around 3rd. Royal Knights is the other team, hanging around that 3rd, 4th position. And that's not enough. You want to be very safe in that top 3. Right, to not just maybe get more cash prize, etc., but the representation means so much. The further training exposure to make it through to PMPL would be huge. So that is something that we have to bear in mind. Of course, there's still a lot of possibilities, and this map of Miramar is going to show us even more, because through some scrims we see some congestion maybe around the Hacienda del Patron area, and teams may get to repeat how they play and test it differently. You know what? And that was a beautifully timed action there, High Level. I will give you that one. And we will have this plane path going from Los Higos all the way to... it's a tough one, you know. I'd say El Azahar.
It is going to be up to if you are right or not. It is.
Ding,
Over
ding,
to El
ding.
Azahar. Bullseye once again there, Tarzan, straight on the money. But it is going to be that dire, really southern and eastern plane path here for these teams, which means, unlike what we saw with teams starting to learn to drop all on this northern side, only Hacienda will be really in play and along towards the eastern side. El Pozo, not so much. Craterfield's not going to be in play because of the size of course, Miramar. Much, much bigger. Much, much more big and huge compared to the jungles of Sanhok.
And we mentioned Hacienda del Patron being highly favored by a lot of these teams, at least in scrims. They get to rematch against each other again, because with that jump distance, that should be reachable. St. Martin, that plateau around Picado Hill can be played right now. And for a team also like HardShift, once again changing things up. They're so used to dropping to the western side of Los Leones, they are opting in for a bit of a change. For better or worse, though, is the question, because that position is now claimed by Gaijin Seraphim, and they are in dead center of this phase 1 circle, complementing the first half of this plane path, and we will get some crazy finish around those hilly areas on the south side of this map.
Like expected, I think teams really vying for that Hacienda del Patron compound, and particularly going to be vying for those hills and the mountaintops of San Martin and Power Grid area. And I think even moving down to Picado, going south through towards the center of zone, that will be the most contested line of action going into this game, I do believe. But the action starting off over in Hacienda del Patron already, as Lakonostra MVP starting to fight here against Ki1, 2 of the top teams at the group stage. One of them potentially going to be out in last position.
But you know what? Lakonostra MVP is very used to dropping in this compound. And if my eyes were sharp enough, I think they have one player with the off angle on the eastern side. So that can allow a lot of possibilities to come in from a distance using certain landscape, but that will require players like Alicio and Danny inside of this main compound to maybe push some of the KI1 players to the side to allow Inori to make that move, but that was just spot on from Hackshot onto that balcony. Alicio needs to crawl back, and Danny may be in there to support, but look at Inori there trying to make that flank, actually made it really, really close, almost giving away footsteps with his position known as well. It will be a lot harder than we thought.
They're heating it up, but it will be Lakonostra MVP to strike back as well. Also, Sons of Odin going to lose one, but Alicio also will get knocked by Hackshot as well. Hackshot here taking the double knock so far, jumping in to the fray, looking to try find a caught out LN MVP. Finds maybe the bullets, won't be able to find him just yet. Still, the rebuy hands comes through the window, but wrong timing, and we'll get caught. And LN MVP just down to one player already.
They don't get contested around here in scrims and tournaments, as far as I'm concerned, Highland Wolf. So that means a lot of the practice that's needed to test how to play this compound is compromised. And that is Inori, you know what, doing damage control will just pull away. But how long is the question right here? It's so open right there. Hackshot with the M16A4 continue to tap their way through, and KI1 will take those 3 kills comfortably in Hacienda.
Yeah, the beat bus going to be the only savior for Inori, going to bring him later stages to this game. But of course, it is 3 kills going over to KI1, and they really needed these here, Tarzan, because they were starting to fall down slightly on the top of that leaderboard standings. They've been able to bring themselves back up a little bit with a strong position over in Hacienda, and in one of potentially the strongest positions to make their way down into the zone. But down slightly lower here is, of course, TSC Legends, the top place team out of this group stage. Not the top right now, though. They're in 9th position as we left off, though, from the second game, and they are the ones that really need these kills to bring themselves back into play.
But let's not forget what TSC Legends can do. Right, they had one of the strongest Miramar wins. Just, I think, the last day of our group stages when they didn't have the circle. Like I mentioned before, even game 1, how they could really turn the tables when it's not in their favor, and this is the time to show it. But I mean, RESQ, another team that showed up like crazy, taking that first spot right now. They will be going further, claiming some other spots, and Sons of Odin, I believe, was on that kill feed a bit earlier with that 1 kill for Royal Knights right now. Potentially is the team that killed one of the Sons of Odin players.
Yep, for sure it will be. Unfortunately, Insania has been knocked already and has been firsted down, bringing, unfortunately, Sons of Odin just down to the trio. In early stages, we know how difficult that can be when you start to lose players, particularly on Miramar, because of how open the land and the terrain can be. You often need teams going into the later stages, Tarzan, to be splitting across multiple hills, across multiple sides of ridgelines, because it has a tendency for zones to be very open-ended or very reliant on teams being able to cover a broad range of space.
And the Uncles is holding one of the strongest spots in the circle right now, Highland Wolf. This church to the northeastern side of Jumeirah is so strong. The elevation gives you that 360 view, and you can see how they can just find those angles on BeMyLOOT right now. BeMyLOOT actually not showing up strong so far. I believe they came in as second seed, but they are basically at the bottom of the table. But at least they've done one thing well, that is to scout at the distance, but that double knock came through so strong and quick. Uncles may want to even push that with that flush as well. BeMyLOOT is in a little bit of a sticky situation.
They haven't done it well enough, but they do have the vehicles behind them. If they can get a revive, potentially they call off a retreat for now before Saint and the rest of the Uncle's crew will come in for those flushes and the kills. You see Clash, he's already escaping back. They've left the buggy there, but they gotten the Murado there in play as well, but not quite easily able to escape. They've lost one, despite Uncles have also lost one on their end as well. That might provide some respite from the amount of gunfire that's going to be coming over them. Nemo still in a dangerous position now, has to get that buggy out of danger and back out of the fight, because he will be on his lonesome and he will potentially be picked off unless he can pull off the miracle 1v4. They're coming over the hill. Nemo holding strong for now.
Oh, but for how long, though, is the question. I think Nemo could have done one thing differently right now, is to maybe smoke up the buggy and drive back to Kind Boy. But it requires Kind Boy to be very, very good in peek and shoot as well as cover fire. And Nemo's still trying not to risk that. And it all comes down to his reflex right now, and the side of Uncles maybe could take this more comfortably and confidently. I mean, they know that there's one player who drifted away, and this one last player, they should maybe just take it already.
Yeah, they're doing the right thing. Uncle's throwing the grenades into the vehicles, but the wrong vehicle will be attacked. Nemo on the buggy, still keeping himself quiet, but look at Insane on the flank side. I don't think Nemo's even spotted this one coming off the side of Uncle's UK, and then just going to pick that one up soon enough and pick up a kill potentially for themselves. You see that now phase 2 zone shrinking down though towards Los Leones. Will be Los Leones finish, as finally Nemo will be flushed out. Through to game 4, he will go to fast track shipping by Uncle's UK.
And if these teams, right, studied each other's plays enough, they should take maybe a position, right, as a choke spot on the more northern half of the circle right now to stop other teams who like to drop to the northern parts of the map from coming in. And that is something that we haven't seen yet, but this church held by Uncles remains strong, and also like how they've done it. Still, not to tunnel onto killing the last players of BeMyLOOT, but keeping one guy at least on that church to keep that 360 view to safeguard that fight. And that is some sort of maneuvers that we want to see from this caliber of play. I mean, after all, they are the top 16 teams in the United Kingdom region, and the most wanted, a team that just made it into the finals, and they are at the middle part of that leaderboard right now, very used to making some slow white rotations at the start of the game and then slowly move their way in, and that is them trying to rotate along that eastern side. And then, you know what, a team like RENGERS need to make up their mind right now. They are in the middle in Los Leones, but it's time for them to show their knowledge of the map. What is the strongest spot inside Los Leones or around it?
It's risky here as well for RENGERS to be controlling Los Leones as well, because keep in mind, controlling the city is a sole team. When Los Leones is in the center, you can expect later on, if it continues to center around Los Leones and the city itself, that teams will start to come in from all sides, and they're going to find themselves quickly pincered and sandwiched by multiple enemy members. But a team that is making a longer rotation, and on the opposite end is 777, coming off, of course, of a strong chicken dinner win in game number 2 over in Sanhok, taking it slow and steady in their pace through Minas Generales into now the phase 2 zone.
I quite like that attempt there by 777 Esports. We all know the southern side of Los Leones is arguably a little bit more hilly, and there's multiple entry spots and entrance routes, and the northern parts are just a little bit too tricky, right? A bit open with the main roads crossing and dividing that current circle right now, dividing it from the northern and southern half. And so we can see TSC Legends also trying to position on the south side of Los Leones, and they can use these high hills to their advantage, maybe catching out a team like 777 Esports, who are opting in for a wide rotation. And then meanwhile, Vendetta here feeling some pain from Most Wanted.
Again, a slow start here as Most Wanted spread over the end of Picado Hills, overlooking the side of Vendetta. And as you see, Los Leones Hills, as it will be that now phase 3 zone, going down to the wire, and we're going to see where it will shift as it goes around the side of Los Leones compound and into now these 5 teams inside it. But look at the congestion on that western side, Tarzan. Look at the amount of teams that are going to be coming through. And like you mentioned, 777, they're going to get that get out of jail free card because they're along the coastline already. They're going to be able to scoop up that clean south entrance.
And there's 2 types of gates here, Island. When it comes to the circle, teams want to be positioning themselves on the edge of these metaphoric, not really metaphoric, like basically gates on the map. So one is between the hills on the southern side of Los Leones and its city. The other one would be the cliff side on that edge of the western side of Los Leones. If you don't position yourself quick and close enough, it makes your rotation really, really slow, and you can get heavily punished for not scouting close enough to this cliffside. And we can see RESQ maybe having a little bit of a tougher game. There's more distance they need to cover. The second knock onto them came through from TS Team.
TES Team, they will not be stopped, although they've had a slightly disappointing 2 games. They're taking it to the number 1 position in the leaderboard. Blood and Coyote already now going to be knocked down. Blood finally will be revived back up into the fight. But Hyper and Tick, they've got some work to do. Tick's already going down from the flank Angler Valley, and that will be a beautiful shot now separating RESQ. And now they come back onto Hyper, and Hyper in his own world of pain alongside Blood, who needs to come in for his crucial support, but Ali's looking for the grenade straight into one. Will find also Coyote, and the smart decision from RESQ here to take 2 separate vehicles, separate 2 different ways, and just to leave what they've lost already.
Would that be enough though? Just look at the landscape of those escape paths. It's just shooting ground for TES, and they are still trying to spray down an one of those players choked along that path, and that is Blood now needing to run upslope. It's going to be such a hard retreat. They need to rely on the mercy of TES when they probably prioritize that rotation now, because they do have some distance to cover.
It's crucial that RESQ kept themselves alive, albeit it's going to be a slow run for one of them here as Blood has been called out and the buggy pops out as well. But inside the central area, of course, as Blood you see will go down, caught out of position there, nowhere to run. Ki1, Gaijin, and also the side of RENGERS, all in this Los Leones area now. 3 teams, and starting to really congest here with more teams surrounding Los Leones just on the outskirts to that western side. The entire city of Los Leones. Look at all of these teams now centering into the city as it will finish over the Los Leones compound, and now you're going to see that rush, particularly if Hyper flank round to the northeastern side, and on the south end, teams look to try enter in there, but just like 777, so many teams had that same idea of opening into that southern flank. And now even 777, along with so many other, have been caught out.
Oh my god. I mean, in phase 1, you already said it's a Los Leones finish, maybe. I think you're the bigger brain right here. We actually are going to have that. And it really comes down to how teams can study that map right now, because it's still going to be a very tricky finish with so many hard covers and buildings involved. But we also saw a position by Most Wanted on that hill still on that eastern edge, and they can actually use that position to farm quite a bit as long as they send maybe 1 into the city to create that anchorage point. They can continue to use those high grounds and not needing to go into city so early, but that's just not going down everywhere. 16 teams still in here, so teams know how to do that damage control, but oh my god, it's so hard to play the circle as they continue to send it in, while Esports trying to take this one, not before they lose a few. Gaijin Seraphim is in here to hold this down.
Gaijin also looking to have a strong game themselves. We talked about their disappointing show at the start, but maybe a slow start is all they needed just to build up their momentum now in the side of Miramar. They kept all 4 players alive, but Dobo will need to revive. Wild, though, is now out of position, and Gaijin, they're surrounding him. There's nowhere to run. The car is going to stop him from escaping so easily. He's going to get smacked and sent into the ground. See ya in match number 4, Fires Prada. And now, guys, and they have to be quick, though, with this loot, because look at all the teams coming in from the south end. They're still on the edge of zone. They need to make it a little bit closer in. It's HardShift hard now, and we'll find one on to BeMyLOOT, Kind Boy. And Uncle's also on to Vendetta on the outside. RENGERS will pick up Adobo finally on that flank side to the west. But inside the center, though, we have TES versus, of course, Ki1, moving away from their starting strong, of course, against Lakonostra MVP, and moving into the side of the center of zone alongside RENGERS. And I think it is going to be about who takes the central series of buildings here. It will have the strongest position, but hold that for right now, because Vendetta, Aiden will lose one. And now Bilal also looking so out in the open. Will he find one with the Uzi? Yes, he will find one, but not bullets left in that clip. Bilal will go down as well, and Vendetta also sent packing.
Uncles, my god, 8 kills right now. They just wiped 2 squads on their own. I gave them the compliment right before the start of tonight, how they can do something very textbook very, very well. And we also mentioned the position of most wanted. They can just rely on those high ground to, scout the edge, farm all of that edge first before needing to send it in, and they might be getting rewarded for that. And HardShift, a team that historically like dropping at Los Leones, in theory, they should have an edge with the Los Leones finish based on their knowledge of the map, right? But now it might not be so easy. So momentum going their way, though. They have wiped the squad now with that 4 team and 4 kills on board.
Most wanted, one of the strongest positions for hard zone shifts. If it goes towards that eastern side, have still the hills in play, which I expect they will look to control, overlooking the entirety of Los Leones itself. But Los Leones still in play for the most part. 12 going to find some bullets into him, but not as much as Spunzy, because Class is going to find that first down, and that will be the side of HardShift getting 1 loss in their side. Spongy finally will be knocked out of the game. Spartan is also being taken out, and now you see Most Wanted looking to try take the 3rd, where he will be able to find it alongside the help of that zone. Play zone sniping up Lotus as well.
Yeah, it's so hard to see, and that is the type of, thoughts that need to come into these players' minds when they play. They have to think about escape strategy. What's the plan B if we successfully take the spot? What if someone's gatekeeping us? And that was HardShift actually suffering based on the choice of location there. But you know what? Sons of Odin, a team that we want to see them show up, actually made it into City with a bit of an edge position. Lost 1 already in Sunny, as we saw in the early game, but that revive should come through soon, and that will be a little bit of a standoff when everyone's in some buildings. It comes down to limiting those footsteps, giving that reflex beautiful, using gyroscope, the I button and stuff to throw the most beautiful nade, and that's something that we get to witness in this Miramar Los Leones finish.
Potentially we will be able to see that. 12 will also be knocked by Uncles. That will be their 9th pickup for this 3rd match. It's a hold strong inside the phase 5 zone as well, though. Potentially one of the strongest, depending, of course, where phase 6 will shift. Already going to be on its way to us very, very shortly as 777 on the opposite side of the road, trying just to hang on alongside Most Wanted on the edge.
And Uncles just played the macro game so well. It seems to be their strong suit, other than making those very textbook plays. And hovering over this location allows them to assess and control at least one side of the map before needing to send it in. It's not completely a bad position when they're off-center. They just need to have those utilities to go in. And look at that. of position actually is good for them. It's not too far between them and the edge of circle, but it's not going to be an easy that landscape. Meanwhile, Most Wanted had that center position, and Class is still on the outside. Maybe with that high ground, he can provide information that the rest of his teammates can't get from within those buildings.
The concern really is right now on Gaijin and Sons of Odin to make it through the barrier of teams ahead of them and make it into now phase number 6. Most Wanted with the strongest position, though, on the other hand, as you see Uncles also stepping into some protection and some shelter themselves. RENGERS going to lose one alongside Sons of Odin. RENGERS going to lose U3Q and lose a second, as now Malik and the duo make it just Malik himself. The only one going to be alive is Gaijin, trying to make their stand here on the edge, will try their best to make it inside the zone, picking up a few kills along the way so far.
Oh my god, you know what? I think Uncles has one of the strongest spots right now, just because they have a position to protect themselves from high ground, as well as looking at all the crosses trying to enter. And look at this chaos from the main city. We're down to 9 teams, and Ki1 has some strong frags right now, and they've got some spots in the circle for now, and they can maybe use that. Meanwhile, not so great for Gaijin Seraphim, but Prada tries to put some work in before he goes down. Will take out the double, and that is RENGERS out at 9th.
RENGERS eliminated away, and so we are down quickly, though, to 7 teams. Another will fall. TES Team edging their way into the north side, though alongside Most Wanted in their triangle formation, joined up by TSC Legends in their own little compound, their own little shack. Classer, though, caught out on the outside by Ali, will find another beautiful snipe and trying to do just the same as it did RESQ previous.
And I think also this type of circle at Highland Wolf, one tactic that needs to come through is doing first resource check and then allocate medication. And sometime when that circle's shifting like now, that tactic can allow them to outlive 2 or 3 teams. I mean, it might be the points that you can't get otherwise, and TSC now needs to hold it down against Ki1.
TSC, but they're already down here, Tarzan. They're running for their lives. Chiquita's now just going to jump out the building like there's a fire happening inside. And Chiquita kneels down, but for how long? Won't be long at all. They will get knocked up, and Hisoka will be the one to take down the final kill. 3 more go their way. 10 in total now, double digits for their squad of Ki1.
Oh, and the circle Wanted once again, and I mean, I talked about Uncle's position, how they can maybe sweep a lot of those crosses, but they now have to be the crosses themselves. The good thing is, it's not too hard to make this cross, right? You just need to maybe smoke across the road and then send 1 or 2 in the car first, with leaving 1 or 2 players to overlook and trade whoever's trying to peek. So Sons of Odin seems like they have a bit of an edge and advantage against the Uncles, but they really need to make every shot count.
It's going to be interesting to see how the Uncles really rotate now into this phase 7. That blue zone will just completely cripple them if it's allowed to catch up behind them. So they will have to make that speedy attempt into zone. You see them doing so, but not so speedy for Ki1. Loses now 1 to Albert. Will lose their flank member. Just down to 1 route for them to go, and that's going to be straight into the center of all the teams. It's 777. Also, Tango can't dance that one out of the line of fire from Sons of Odin. They find now a second pick themselves. 2 up. Try to pick up all the kills towards this end game, but look at Uncles. They're on the edge of the ridgeline, looking to try pressure from a different angle, putting the pressure onto Sons of Odin from multiple sides. This is Ki1. Danoka's down, Soka the only one up.
And that is such a strong spot that ridge allows them to rotate without giving any information, and they can just find a new angle to peek. But I mean, back up with the side angle here, they just need to play the Kobe game, and he can maybe change that like crazy. And TS is not going to like this one. And Kid as well going down when he's trying to hold that compound, and Ali trying to make the 1v2 happen.
most wanted, just down to ads. Going to be the most wanted team for their position here, as DR not going to let up the respite. Ads will now try to keep himself alive, but won't be for long potentially, with also Ki1 picking themselves up a few. Ads falls down alongside to the hands of TES. Hisoka, though, holding onto that door with Hackshot. The two members on that alleyway, joined up by Danoka, their third man, closing the shutters, closing the vision away from Sons of Odin, and making it all such a mystery for them, with too many different angles to count. 3 other teams along their way from the wall.
I mean, Ki1 is in position to breach the control grounds of Sons of Odin right now. They just need to rely on the pictorial memory upon entering this building, understand the structure of this end circle, and they can choose one side to apply pressure. And that's probably one way to go. And Uncles, meanwhile, choke. That is how you use smoke. Sometimes you deploy it on yourself, choke the enemy sightlines. And with those smokes in the middle, they would grab those beautiful and greatly timed gifts from that care package, and will get those level 3 gear fresh for them. And they are also coming in to apply pressure.
You see Uncles coming closer to DR, holding inside his own little shack for now. You see Ki1 also edging their way, looking to try scout, as DR will fall down to insane. That will put us down to 3 teams. Still Sons of Odin edging their way closer to zone. Hackshot, Danoka, and Hisoka going to be the perpetrator to try stop this. Sons of Odin desperate for vision. The only thing they can really do is jump over that wall, but it's not going to be enough. They try throw the smokes out and the stun grenades out to try find some more time for them to move in. You see Baka make their snipe through. Albert also through the wall. On the opposite end, Uncles and Arca looking to do the same. Inside these hallways, that will be where we finish.
Oh, and they just need to use their ears right now. Every footstep count in this type of situation, and you can get absolutely outplayed and outskilled. This compound is just so tricky, man. Like, you need to know like how to use it. You need to know when to peek. Pre-fire would be so key in this finish, and I think it's given it's phase 9 as well. Highland, they have to pull that trigger now, or just play that healing game. It's gone. Sons of Odin,
they have lost 1. They're going to lose 2. Is that zone will choke them out. Sons of Odin can't escape the blue. And that will be Uncles looking to try take advantage of it. Only Soka alive. They find one onto Aga. Will they find a second? No, they will not. And Ki1 fall up short. And Uncles were the ones to take the victory with so many kills as well. Look at that juicy amount. 13 in total.
oh my god, that is, how many points is there? 28-point game. My god. And that is, you know what, I like to see it. Different teams showing up, different teams showing how they can take a win in their own style. And when I talked about Uncles, the Uncles UK, their style is to play those textbook ways and may really get that foundation down, and this is them here getting rewarded for doing that. But Ki1 also such a strong team through this group stage, just now just taking that control. You know, sometimes when you get that hard cover in that city, doesn't mean that you can frag it out, but they are showing otherwise.
And you see, though even it is only foundation, sometimes the simplest things are the strongest and most effective proven methods here. As you see, Uncles are able to snipe up that third chicken dinner of tonight, but still on the top now. The rescue has been bumped down, and TES team will be the ones to snipe up the pole position. 38 points now in total for them, picking up all those placement points and, of course, those kill points from earlier on, from, of course, rescue themselves, and from moving later into those finals zones. HardShift take up third position though, and this is interesting for HardShift, right, as a particular team on the top, because in the group stage here, Tarzan, they finished only in getting into the top 16 from the final game, clinching joint 15-16th position, and now they're challenging the top.
And to be fair, they played a little bit more aggressive, or I should say, they timed the aggression quite well there, using the part of the map that they know, and was an additional 5 points, I believe, that they got from there. So still pretty high up that leaderboards, but it's not going to mean so much when there's point separation between the first place team and the 8th place team, being only 8 points. 8 points is nothing almost. I mean, in this early phases, it shows very limited indication to how we can predict how this finals is going to end. So it's still, it's completely open. I mean, a win like that for the uncles with a 13 to 28 point game, if you have that onto the Rengers, like how they've done in group stage, that one game would put them in 4th or 5th place right now. So that is the big wins, like mattering a lot to change the dynamics of this ranking table.
And of course, it is going to be the dynamic of that final game to really be what swivels one team up to the top, what swivels some others back down to the bottom going into tomorrow's matches and future through this week. But as we say, it's still one more game to go, and there's still one more match to go here, Tarzan. And I think going on to Erangel particularly, we now have to really look back at the first set of games, of course, as well, and really look at what actually went down. Of course, HardShift in 3rd position. They were the ones that took the chicken dinner away in that first match. Royal Knights in 2nd also need a strong showing to put themselves back up to the top. And that 8-point gap in between 1st and 8th position, that could be with another type of finish, with another type of 16, 15 teams showing up towards the end of the circle, separated particularly easy.
And you know what? I just like the thought that HardShift, a team that changed the drop locations in 2 out of 3 maps, actually getting more results out of that is actually very encouraging. And I mean, you can't do that blindly. It takes a lot of testing, as you mentioned, Highland. They did it in scrims, etc. And of course, that's like years of playing, years and months of these players playing together in the history of PUBG that made that adaptation quick and effective. And we just need to see more of that. And you know what, the team that I want to see more, of course, is BeMyLOOT. I believe they were at top 3 before tonight. I mean,
second
it doesn't
position.
count anymore. Yeah, but they had really, really strong days. And I think it was the last day. And speaking of consistency, that is quite scary, right? Having the strongest last day in group stage coming in and now at the bottom of the table with only 3 points. What can they do? And we'll get to find that out very soon.
Yeah, it will be that final match going to be on Erangel. Of course, though, a short break will come first, and then we'll be able to get into that spicy green rolling hill action just coming off the heat of Miramar. So do not go anywhere, guys. Coming right up. Welcome everyone to now game number 4 as we jump back onto the green rolling hills of Erangel. It is of course a PMCO UK Finals, and that is the action really going to heat up for this final game. Joined not only by myself but by Tarzan once again, as always, going to be casting some of the spiciest, the juiciest chicken dinner winner action. But we just came off of the heat of Miramar, where we did actually see the uncles pick up their first chicken dinner of the finals so far. And for me, I think that is a statement, right, of the general theme of today. We have seen the teams in the bottom doing better than the teams in the top from the group stage.
Yeah, for sure. And that is nice to see, actually. Teams studying each other's play style, as well as leveling up that battlefield, everyone making it to a closer level. And that is nice to see. That means we may not have those point sponge situation as frequently. And we can see that, the point separation are so narrow, Highland Wolf. So we just need some big wins from some of these teams at the bottom, and they will join that top pack. And it's just going to be more and more chaotic. And I mean, TES team, one of the teams that you mentioned that were not more in the bottom, now taking the first place. Of course, not a lot of points ahead of other teams, but showing what they can do. They show this tendency and confidence in capitalizing on the area they intend to control. And that's just brilliant. I mean, I want to see more of these adaptations, secondary drop slots maybe, and I think we're going to head on to that game 4. Let's not wait any longer, waiting for that playing path and seeing how they're going to play it. And this looks quite similar, a little bit more northern than game 1, but we will have that hospital start in the early phase of this playing path, and it will go all the way through Yasnaya.
It will go over to Kameshki or past Alba. I'm hoping. I'm trying to play your game here, Tarzan, and see if it will go over. Actually, slower and lower towards Kameshki here. In between Kameshki and Lipovka, I was almost right. I thought Georgia Pole was slightly high on the map in my mind, but I guess not. I guess we can move a little bit south down towards Georgia Pole and towards now the center of that plane path going over Roshok. And what this does do, at least, though, is separate away teams from the first game, like Royal Knights, like 777, who both dropped on that South Island, not going to be able to do so anymore. But I know you've got a point about two teams over in that eastern side of Lipovka and Mansion, though, Tarzan.
Right, and those two teams are Lakonostra MVP, who loves Lipovka, religiously go there. I was hoping for playing path to be a bit more brutal, to be away from that drop spot so they don't rely on dropping there. And the other team would be the side of TSC Legends, a very strong team in the group stages, continuously dropping and splitting around Mansion and Prison. And I want to see them take initiative to hunt down Lakonostra MVP. I mean, this eastern side distribution has repeated itself, I don't know, like 6 or 8 times every time they clash. And that's something that I want to see a change of. And the other thing that will keep repeating is the congestion around Rozok and school area, as well as the north, the Georgia Pole favor here. And Gaijin Seraphim back to this spot once again. And we also have RESQ maybe going for those South Georgia Pole crates, and that should be no surprise to us. And we're starting to see these patterns coming up, teams repeatedly dropping in a certain spot, and they may still rely on that sense of security unless they get challenged.
What I do see, though, because you talked about challenge, though, is teams having that handshake, teams not going for those target drops, which actually surprises me to an extent. You saw how effective a hot drop onto another team was with Ki1 landing onto Lakonostra MVP in the previous match, and how it can work out in a team's favor. And still no teams doing that. Going now, what are we on? 12 plus 15th game for these teams. It is a little bit disappointing to see teams not risking it even while you still can, while the leaderboards are still fairly open, trying to shove a team down to the bottom of that leaderboard?
I think maybe those tactics are in the progress of being planned. That surprise factor is not just about how they do it, it's when sometimes they want to add that spice in the later phases of the tournament to catch another team off guard. And you know what, rather than saying they're keeping their conservative ways, I want to say maybe they just want to time that well. And meanwhile, HardShift, a team that we mentioned, having those secondary drop spots in Sanhok and Miramar, they will still be going back to Severny. I mean, why not? With a pretty northern plane path, access to the northern part of the map, and a lot of comfort drops as well. No contest would be the main reason. I think HardShift waiting to see how they rotate in the next phase. And the TES, the team that we didn't see quite a lot in group stages, now showing up against another team that has some good games. 777 Esports were our winners on that Sanhok game 2, and they're now basically on top of each other, sharing some loot, sharing some grounds on that western coastline.
It'll be interesting to see how these two chicken dinner winners go up against each other, particularly down on this southwestern side, with the rest of TES coming in from behind. And it really does look a little bit dicey for UV right now. In the barn house does find one pick though for now, and has to be careful because Dika doesn't go down. The reload comes through, the grenade looking to be cooked up onto Dika's head, but they're going to cancel that out, and Dika will be knocked as well. And they're mitigating a total engage from TES, as now Dia has to come to the rescue. Yes, they keep both the knocks alive, and I'm surprised actually that UV didn't immediately jump out onto that shed, maybe anticipating actually the side of DR to be right around him. Crucial that grenade gets bounced the wrong way. That could have been curtains for the side of TES.
I mean, the idea is good from TES. They know there's a single out player and they want to take it down. But the execution has to come through stronger though, and UV was able to hold it down 1v3 and will take a third knock as well. And the support is finally coming in. Londa OP behind, and with another car from his teammate Gunner Gaming now coming in, and they are ready to reverse pinch this compound.
But so are TES. They're also sending in their fourth man, but it won't be quick enough because Dia is already knocked as well. And now Dia is the one on the back line. You see the fourth man come in, but the damage has already been done by 777. They were first to arrive, and quicker to rotation, they will win the race. And you see the pickup is only going to be short-lived. Is now they will lose the car. Dia and Ali on the run, on foot. But how long will they be able to last? Gunner Gaming looking to try hunting them down. The final two members on his lonesome, making out 1v2. Gunner Gaming will find a one onto DR. Ali, the only one alive, has to now make the miracle 1v4. Solo health won't be able to do it. The pick will be won, but it won't be finished off. And 777 clean 4 players alive, and 4 kills go into their pockets.
And it's official, TES team will end day 1 of the PMCO UK Finals with 38 points. And you know who else got 38 points now? 777 Esports with those 4 kill points. They are leveled at the top of that leaderboard, and that is just strong showing there. And we can see how important it is for these teams to practice push mechanics, how they want to overlook and trade, and how they attack a compound. Like with them flanking in from a side, it was so hard for that player in that building, initially sharing that 1v1 against UV to make it work. So the angles of which they're pushing in, how they can use that as bait, etc., need to really come through. And TES falling short after some strong start in tonight.
And Sons of Odin, a team that picked up that third place in the third match, didn't have such a strong first 2 games, and we want to see a little bit more from them going now into the final match. Sons of Odin, we know, can be strong in Erangel. We talked about how Erangel can be one of their strongest games and one of their strongest maps. And although they have had this team literally built around the PMCO UK Finals and built to take down one of those spots of the PMPL EU West, they are still, keep in mind, only a month-old team. And they still are trying to clean up the synergy through the scrims. There's still some way to go to clean up all of their mistakes, these small mistakes that they make time and time again, with maybe rotating in the wrong way or taking a wrong fight with teams coming from behind them.
For sure. And speaking of showing up strong on Erangel, the other team that's worth mentioning is HardShift. They were heavily relying on those Erangel wins to even qualify for this finals. And I mean, both of these teams, so I'm talking about HardShift and Sons of Odin, are relying on one thing. I feel like they're betting on the zone to be on their side, and they can kind of capitalize on that. But that is different. I think is needed for this caliber of play. They need to be able to twist the fate and take things into their own hands when it seems unfavorable. And I mentioned one team who has the potential and the tendency of doing it, being TSC Legends, but they are not showing up yet tonight. They're only at 11th position with 15 points. But we said, even for the bottom table, they just need one big win to be joining the top pack, and we will have that shift continuing going over to that eastern side. We'll center up over phase one circle with the middle being around the mentioned areas. So a lot of strong positions coming in, and TSC Legends are holding those two sets of compounds with 360 overview and can stop a lot of rotations coming through to that middle zone.
I think what will be interesting to see is how teams look to control not only the hills and mansion, but also Yasna Pollyanna to that north side. And I think expecting HardShift to rotate into the city itself. And I like that also Vendetta had done the same preemptively as well here. Understanding that the teams here in these finals, none of them go towards Yasnaya as a hot drop. And Vendetta taking all of that loot up in going to be so stacked in terms of now moving to the later stage of the game. But on that north side, Most Wanted going to be clashing through from Kameshki on the rotation down, alongside HardShift meeting up along the way from Severny.
Oh, it's going to be a pretty tricky one. I mean, like when it comes to studying your enemy's gameplay, I think drop spot is just the basic level. Like it's something that every of these players need to do, and not just IGs, not just the coaches, everyone should have that knowledge. But the harder bit of studying comes through when you study how teams like to rotate in a particular type of circle shift. And that will allow you, okay, alongside your knowledge of which compounds they tend to take, to form some really good tactics. And that is something that we are yet to see. And meanwhile, 777, the team that took out 1-4 team, and they will rotate along that northern parts and still need to find a good spot in. And for this total circle, with so many teams in there already, is a test to the ability to scout effectively.
The only action that's gone down for the side of 777 in this game so far is BeMyLOOT on the bottom of the leaderboard right now, 16th position themselves, but on the leaderboard itself, looking to try to take it to Royal Knights on the other side. But in the middle of them all, you see Uncles, the sandwich that is that chicken dinner winner, and they're looking to be the chicken inside the bun of both BeMyLOOT and Royal Knights.
And you know what, for these type of compound, like mid long range compound standoffs, Highland Wolf, I expect, right, these teams to not lose any player. If you've got hard cover and you get knocked, not just knocked, but you get killed from long range, that is tier 2. It sounds really bad, like for these teams, because they want to be
It's
that
true.
tier 1 and top player, but there's no space for that sort of mistake to happen. We're trying to find those 3 teams to represent the region. You cannot allow that type of mistakes, and so we are waiting to see how they play those standoff around that shelter area. Meanwhile, Most Wanted rotating through that eastern side, they still went back to a Kameshki type of drop around that northeastern side, and they get some pretty decent entry spots for now. Need to slowly come in though, and we will be looking at the next shift, and that would dictate it like crazy, and it's going to be a hard shift onto HardShift and Lakonostra MVP. Is an Eastern shift, ladies and gentlemen, could be a mansion finish with a lot of strong dips, only if you know how to play them.
And interesting as well, keep in mind Prison on that south end. The mountainside around Prison as well will be crucial for some of these teams, potentially looking over to the center and the opposite hill to Mansion and over to the compound of Lipovka on that coastal line. And being able to use that high ground on the south to be able to then get awareness of where to move on that next phase. But Royal Knights, they're already on the driver's seat, moving around to their next position around the mansion itself. TSC Legends, of course, already controlling that location. Their standard drop, and I expect TSC Legends now, for the first time in the PMCO UK scene, to actually be contested here on Mansion, show up strong.
You know what, but it's a mid-game type of contest. I think I would put a lot of faith in them if they have an early clash. But in the mid-game, you see how they position themselves inside of the mansion. That makes rotation out of it sometimes very tricky because we see compounds around it, the squad house that's claimed by Royal Knights, for example, and the two compounds across the field on the western side all being claimed. That makes the rotation path out of the main mansion really, really hard. And we can also see teams trying to come into this Prison side. Very tricky to play. You need to know the particular rock and ridge that you can use, and seems like the side of Wild Esports holding that southern side, but it's not going to be easy. They get some elevation, but it's very likely that they need to go through a lot of teams if the circle shifts away from them.
And it will be now up to these teams to get that strong position in zone. You see Wild have picked up, just like we say, Sons of Odin, the hilltops of Prison, and are looking to try make that strong foothold, that strong awareness going into phase number 4 or 5. We've seen how important the position is for these players and getting a stronger position and strong awareness going into end game, because like we saw in games 2 and 3, and to an extent in game number 1 as well, here Tarzan, many teams, and of course 15 only, of course, unfortunately one team dropping out early, TES being in that last position. But the end game stage gets particularly crowded here. But Lakonostra MVP will lose one, as Senso will take that knock as RENGERS move their way closer into Danny now, with Malak scouting out the outskirts.
Pretty hard compound to hold down. The good news is they will have a spot on that northern edge. In this next circle, it will continue to shift towards the eastern side. Strictly speaking, the southeastern HardShift, and that actually gives a team like, if I just need to test my eyes right, the Gaijin Seraphim going for that wide rotation, right? And all the way down the southern edge, and they can come in to those 4 houses to the northeastern side of Prison. Very strong compounds there to overlook a lot of this grounds, and with them going there and knowing their ability to capitalize on position advantage, that is great news for them. But the congestion on that northwestern side will be crazy. The IGL of Most Wanted Kid losing his life trying to scout further in.
And I think looking, of course, now with Most Wanted in the center, yes, it's great to be in the center, but look at all the teams coming in that cloud of color towards the north side. Is Lakonostra MVP trying to find one on Tazagi with Anori on the outside, but the Sons of Odin in the inside alongside Uncles will be the ones to take all the damage alongside Most Wanted. Ads will get sniped up by Anori from the opposite end. The second window will be the victory window in the victory hole for Ads now to be closed out of this match. Goodbye, Ads, and good night.
I mean, at least Lakonostra MVP knows this compound is so strong. With the 3 stack and the 360 view around, they can for sure farm quite a lot, only if they know the limits of their cover, and this is such a good one for them, and I think they can just use this for so long. Also, a spot to get so much information into center zone as well. But we will see a lot of teams like HardShift and Sons of Odin keep ending in the position that they didn't plan to take because they get choked on rotation.
777 losing one as well, and Londa on the rotation from that northeastern end, looking with RENGERS to try flush that one out, but they won't be so fortunate. Albert, even more unfortunate here as Sons of Odin will lose another. Look at Sons of Odin in between all of these teams as TSC rotate further in, leaving behind the chaos of these 4 teams along the Dead Forest.
And I mean, Baka got a sweet spot here. That is Erangel 2.0. That tip is really, really strong, but can't really hold cars other than the buggy to provide that covering, but they at least get that spot for now, and the smoke means that they can get some revives through, and this congestion on the western side shall continue. Starboy, one of the 2 remaining members of Royal Knights, are not going to like this because teams are going to come in from all the angles, and it's so hard to protect the vehicles around this type of landscape as well.
They will have also that ridge line there to protect at least against one team on RENGERS behind them. But Royal Knights, they are pinned by many teams. Keep in mind RESQ on the other side. The spray's coming through the window from Baka, but will not be finding any knocks for now. RESQ on the other hand will be the ones to pick up. Rengar as Hyper will steal that one away. The rest of Rengar are going to be rotating up to that north side, but they're going to have to rotate back down south because the zone centralizes around the hills back out of Lipovka, and these teams who thought it might go towards that compound, they're going to have a hard time shifting back into the center.
And in the center right now, we have TSC Legends, a team that should, in theory, know this area so well because it's so close to the drop spot. And it's down to them to now hold it down and out-knowledge and therefore outplay other teams. And we can see the team like Vendetta relying on the sense of comfort coming from the hardcovers of the Lipovka, needing to rotate away now. And this western edge will still be busy, all of them needing to come in to the western edge. The clock is ticking. 3, 2, 1, go. It's so hard to get out of this because many teams are keeping their eye on this area right now.
It is still Royal Knights pinned. As Sons of Odin, their tires get popped, they lose 1, they lose 2, and now comes the second vehicle as Baka will be more fortunate, but the damage has already been done. The bullets come in from behind onto Starboy. The smoke's going to be the only cover to protect him from now. Dips under the ridge line and will be able to keep himself alive. Cables now found a target, and it will be BeMyLOOT. Now in a little bit of a tricky position himself. Kindboy out of the rest of his team.
And at least Baka got a very decent spot here, and that is still not in the zone though, and they will continue to suffer. Oh my god, the defensive angles. They need to look out for on the southern edge. They can maybe preemptively smoke the positions that Royal Knights may peek from, and they could maybe make it further. But you know what? RESQ is in here to win this as well as they try to control that northwestern edge.
It will be HardShift though on that southeastern side to lose to a Spartan Hardman double knock as Ki1 Hackshot will be the perpetrator, takes up the double for his team and will look to revive Soka from the behind. Lotus though will pick up Soka before he can get any closer to Hackshot, and that will be the return kill for their team. Albeit a pity kill as it is that 1 versus 2 and of course you have now HardShift, Spongy on the opposite side, going to revive back up onto Lotus, keep 2 members alive, but Spongy the only one himself, and he's getting targeted down. You see, potentially it might just be the entire squad of HardShift not going to be able to repeat what they did in their first game in their victory. That roadside, just too much for them to cross with so many players alive. RENGERS now feeling that pain. Hardman finally goes down, so will Spongy. That will be HardShift finally eliminated away out from match number 4, and so will almost 1 to 12.
Oh my god, and that is just bloodbath everywhere, and this is the type of fight in Circle, right, Island Wolf, that they need to use their cars to set up those metal shields, as well as using utilities to divide the play field so that they can focus on one side. The Bujo has an idea here, trying to choke that, and a double knot come through onto Gaijin Seraphim.
That's not the way they wanted to make that medal blockade there, Tarzan. The double knock comes through from Gaijin. And Gaijin, the team that need to really pick up the pace here, pick up the kills. They've lost 2 members, unfortunately. And now they are just going to potentially lose them permanently as they will tick down on the health bar. Bujo for TSC Legends with the central position of his team. Only 3 members alive because he's going to cook his prey.
And I think the sub landscape actually are in favor of a team that's playing edge, because they can always limit how much they want to peek and scout, and they can reassess time to time. But if you're a team in the center, you can kind of rely or over-rely on the sense that you've got a position in the circle, but it will be so hard for you to know where to look continuously. The need to reassess your surroundings, and look at this one here. Maybe BeMyLOOT can use this edge position, but Lakonostra MVP needs to know this bit better because they drop very close to this area.
BeMyLOOT even gatekeeping away RESQ, but RESQ themselves looking to gatekeep Lakonostra MVP on the edge of this west side. Gaijin make the heavy rotation in the vehicle. Maybe this one won't blow up in their face. Prada and Lord, the only ones there for their squad as they're separated away. Lord inside the smokes, the only cover he's going to find inside this open, very open terrain is RESQ on that hillside. Look to make their ascent very, very slowly as that full squad against TSC Legends, against the teams inside the center. RESQ, the only full squad remaining.
And it's so good that they've got this ridge line as well, but for how long is the question? Because the next shift's going to come on very soon, and they need to have the sweetest formation to break away from the edge position. We never know. Maybe it's going to be a shift onto them, and Sultan definitely had some info, so they need to really limit how much info they're giving over to RESQ as well. The crawling journey and path of RESQ needs to continue. They've got another 50 meters to go, and they've only got 38 seconds to cover that distance.
They're going to have to make it different from the Snake game they played in match number 1. Didn't work out for them, but not going to work out so hot for either Ki1 or Lakonostra MVP, and neither BeMyLOOT, because they're going to be blowing up either side of Coyote. Coyote himself snaking his way closer, going to find the double pick, potentially he's spraying down, but not quite on target yet. BeMyLOOT survived just for a little bit now, but it first comes out, but a knock in return. Clashty will also now be found, not able to pick up the double, and they will now need to make that speedy revive because they're outside of phase number 7. The zone now is starting to close in, and Blood still needs picked back up.
And Nori just fell as well. Alicia, the last one standing, they initially had the circle, but a little bit too split there. And with 777 Esports slowly crawling in from that edge, they got a perfect Molotov to delete 2 of Lakonostra MVP players. And now we just need to see more, and RESQ trying to control. I mentioned this earlier as well, using that utility, saving up for the time that matters. They will set those limits of that battlefield, not even scared to use that car when you had set it up so beautifully, and they will still be continuing. Made it to top 6 now, full squad, and 8 kills already on board. 9th.
9. Yeah, 9, they pick up another. And now you see 777, no, they have the strongest spot, just avoiding the fights, but albeit they have lost Tango, they're down just to their 2 members. RESQ also looking to try and move forward with Coyote on the side of TSC Legends, Bujo and Chiquita. All of them, though, surrounding Alicio as he will finally fall to the grenade. But Bujo as well gets shot up. And now Chiquita through the smoke and the phase 7 closing in behind them. The pressure really getting to them. Can he find a pick? No, they will not. It will be TSC Legends falling down. And then the MVP also fall down as well. Gunner Gaming, though, he picks up the double. Can he now find the second 2 kills? He will find the first for now. Gunner, the only one alive, has to take out the entire squad of RESQ. Blood healing himself back up. The grenade goes over. Will it land directly on target? Yes, it will. Gunner Gaming with a long-range snipe. And now Coyote, the only one, but a second grenade lands down. And Gunner, the aim on point. It's 777. Take the chicken dinner.
Practice your nates, boys. Look at Gunner Gaming. God, that was basically a 1v4. I wouldn't believe that. Sometimes it's the tension slowly building up, but he's just done it clean. Straight up. In the matter of 3 nates, he eliminated the whole squad of RESQ. Oh, I think that's the top spot for them. And with that amount of kills as well. So they had 14 kills before this game. And they got 15 in this game with a chicken dinner. Oh my God. I said "oh my God" too many times. I need to find a different phrase for this, but
I think
Jesus.
it's a suitable phrase. Yeah. It's a suitable phrase for the amount of aim that Gunner Gaming just showed us. Straight onto target, triple grenades to the face. RESQ just didn't know what hit them. TSC Legends fall, of course, in 3rd position. Still picking up those 6 kills, albeit from the central position. But as you see on top, 777 deservedly take the first spot from the first day of competition. RESQ, albeit slightly further behind, and more so those top 3. The leaderboard has started to open up a little bit more and separate these teams apart.
It's such a strong night for 777, and they showed this timed aggression style that allowed them to take the win on Sanhok. And of course, for this one, it's really hard to say, right? But I would at least credit the side of Gun Gaming for trigger this. That would be the key for him to made it as a solo to that end game. Of course, with that clutch factor as well. Oh my God, just really looking forward to see what they can do from here. The top of the leaderboard before that game was 38 points, and now we've got 3 teams at that. And look at this, 3 teams that propelled themselves away from that. And one of that is definitely your choice, the top fragging team right now, RESQ, just falling short on that. But with 32 kill points, that kill points alone made them top 7, I'd say. And with that type of finish and day 1, holding that 2nd spot very, very comfortably.
A scary team indeed. But also, props, of course, to TSC Legends. They came from 11th position. That final game bumps them up to the top 8, and they are on their way as well. Your pick there to taking that top spot. But I don't think either of us expected 777 from not even making it into the top 16 in group stage, finding a qualification through the deficit of other teams, and showing us that they deserve that position. And albeit showing that many of these teams deserve a spot. Even, of course, HardShift here in 4th position with 38 points, 25 placement points. One of the most, I think, consistent teams, apart from if we discount that final game for them. One of the most consistent teams in the first 3, at least, going through these zones and making it into the final phases. I think slightly, albeit a little bit of a blunder there in their final game, couldn't quite make it to the end, but albeit a fair show for them, and they're in a strong position in 4th now to be able to take back into the top 3.
And speaking of HardShift, I think they still need to work on the same things, because we could see, of course, they made it to a pretty, pretty much end game for Sanhok, but highly reliant once again to be the zone to be on their side. And so that is something for sure that they need to change. Is how they can maybe position themselves in a way that gives themselves a better edge for the circle to go on them. Because you can't always say that, I've got a spot in the circle right now, I'm on edge, and I'm okay for now.
Right.
That's not how this game goes. That's not how map knowledge goes. And you need to find a position when you have that sense of consideration that I always like to talk about, Highland, with escape strategy, scouting potential into by according to your prediction of the next shift, to give yourself that edge there, and not always forcing yourself to play by what's in front of you. And I think there's more than just HardShift. A lot of these teams need to learn that, and we can see the mastery of the same skill is done better by certain teams like TSC Legends, RESQ, and some of the teams that show up tonight as well. Uncles,
the foundations is what and where it counts here for these teams. Of course, so it has been an excellent first day for PMCO UK Finals, Spring Split 2021. Of course, as well sponsored by Xiaomi, our excellent sponsor, innovation for everyone. Go check them out and check out the epic stuff they've got on their store as well. But in store for the next 3 games and the next 3 days, and next 12 games is going to be all a mystery here, Tarzan. And I tell you what, it is going to be an exciting mystery indeed. I just can't wait to just wrap it out, like rip open like the gift package of these 12 games and just see exactly what we've got and who is going to be our top 3 teams. Because although it looks strong for 777, there is still 75% of these points to go.
For sure. And for a team like BeMyLOOT, that has shown a similar thing in group stage, right? Very rough day one. And then they told us they've got 1 or 2 very limited learning points coming into the later days. And they tried to nail that one thing, and that allowed them to go all the way to 2nd position towards the end of group stage.
Yeah.
So still a team to maybe blow up and show us, what they can do. Just show up already. And so many teams with some big games that they've shown before as well. Gaijin, another team that didn't make so strong of a day one in group stage. Maybe they can bounce back. And you know what? I'm just loving it already. Just can't wait for tomorrow. But maybe sucks for these players. Long night for them, long day, more studying to do, more training. But you know what? I hope it's all going to be worth it. And I do believe so.
I think it will be worth it, especially to see for us. It will be worth it to have that action in our eyes, glued to the screen for another 3 nights of action. And I hope you will be able to join us alongside that wild ride. Of course, same time tomorrow, here will be another 4 games coming straight up and being served to your faces. Don't go anywhere. Keep the link ready because it's going to be a good one.